testing my Photoshop skills. My rapid Photoshop skills. I'm gonna put like a heart on the regular galaxy background with Urgot Thresh in the heart.
Microsoft is shutting down Mixer. Woo!
Whoa, that was fast. Where does Ninja go? that man, that did not take long at all. Holy cow. Dude, that's insane. Did that info just come out right now?
Yeah, like 10 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago.
Wow.
Microsoft is now shutting down Mixer and partnering with Facebook Gaming. It'll integrate into the xCloud to Facebook Gaming.
So Ninja's gonna be on Facebook then.
Well, he's free to come back to Twitch.
And welcome everybody to the Giant Slayer Series Season 2 Grand Finals. I am DoA. With me is Frodan as always, and here we are. The end of all things. Well, not the end of all things. Maybe the end of certain platforms, but not the and also the end of this tournament, but not all things. Not yet. It's just Giant Slayer Series. It's gonna be great. There's a lot of big news coming out right now on the internet. But anyway, we're gonna ignore all that. We're going to watch some TFT. It's going to be an awesome lobby. We have 5 games to look forward to today. How you doing, Frodan? How's your ladder experience been treating you lately?
It's been good. I was able to crack kind of like the low mid echelons of Masters, just kind of enjoying the new patch. Overall, I really do enjoy it. I think there's a wide variety of compositions that you can play. There's
Mm.
even some opportunities to flex with how you choose to, run your late game comps. There's pivot opportunities. So overall, I think 3.5 was a pretty good success. I know that there's a couple of contentious things like whether or not certain comps are too strong, whether or not Urgot is like, fair to burn through things like Guardian Angel. But all those like minor complaints aside, I've been enjoying the mid-set expansion a ton so far.
Yeah, I have gone so far that I am even playing cybernetics in some of my games, which is something I always refused to
Whoa.
do before. But you don't have to rely on Echo, so that's okay. We're gonna first of all say, as usual, a big thank you to Juke.gg for sponsoring the Giant Slayer series. They have been our diehard partners for a while now. And if you type exclamation point GSS in chat, you can find all the POVs of all the players. So if there's one in particular you want to watch, you can go do that. Otherwise, we're gonna kind of be covering everything here as well. So thanks again to them for sponsoring the series. Let's take a look at our format, see how we got to this point. In general, we've had 3 weeks of season play, and that has led us to the finals. 5 games to decide who the Giant Slayer Series Season 2 champion is going to be. Let's take a look at what they're playing for as far as the prizing goes.
Yep, that's right. So pretty much today's format is a condensed version of what you saw week to week. You had players who were like trying to get for first in the lobbies, but in the end, they were really playing for the overall standings. Today, that gets thrown out the window. Everybody
Mm.
that shows up today, their points are equalized down to 0, and whoever's the best performer after 5 lobbies today will be the winner. And some people say that's not enough games, but we got to declare a cutoff sometime, right? We can't make
Yeah.
these people play nonstop waves of lobbies. So after 5 today, we'll crown a champion.
Well, like everybody in the Giant Slayer series is an awesome TFT player. So somebody had to get cut to make it this far. You can see, of course, who didn't quite make it. One important note is that Khroen actually forfeited his spot in the finals, and that means that you need only 2 points out of the top 8 gets that spot, and so he'll be playing today. So we're bummed to not see Khroen in the final lobby, but it's a great opportunity for Unid. And missing by just a tiny bit in the group stages. I'm glad to see him get a chance to play.
Yeah, that's right. So, you need to get an opportunity to get some redemption. The French still have equal amount of representation, with Khroen kind of taking a step back as he focuses on his real life professional opportunities.
Right.
And, the stage is set once more for the EU versus NA showdown. That's kind of the big element of the Giant Slayer series this season. Can Europe buy themselves redemption? And it turns out they very much can. They've got 5 out of the 8 spots. Only 3 players can claim themselves as part of North America.
Yeah.
That's Kiyoon, Khroen, and Agon. Everyone else kind of comes in with the EU invasion, which makes sense, right? Like more opportunity for Europe to prove themselves means that more
Um,
Europeans will qualify to top 8.
so as far as the regional tournaments we saw a China versus NA tournament a while ago where NA came out on top of that one, and now we're seeing an EU versus NA tournament where EU has a greater representation in the finals lobby, but we'll see who stands atop the pedestal as the dust clears. But it's going to be great. I mean, you look at this list of players, and there are so many top names on here, and so many players. I think it's important to note too that have the ability to play a wide variety of comps. There's not a lot of one tricks, or really any one tricks that I can think of in this lobby. And don't you say Kiyoon, because he's playing a ton of stuff right now. We're in 3.5. It's not just mech anymore.
Yeah, and there's a lot of viable comps, as we kind of talked about. Many
Yeah.
people accept that I believe 2 compositions might be S tier. I think if you pull the average top, 100, top 50 players, they would all say Cybernetics and Rebels seem really good. But, even the comps that aren't necessarily in S tier and they're in like the A tier,
Mm.
with the right conditions, with the right itemizations, they can still very easily take a first. You're talking about like, six blade master compositions. You're talking
Yeah.
about mech making a possibility of a comeback as well, or even just sorcerers. So I'm excited to see what we got today. And if there's any other tricks up player sleeves that we're not even necessarily talking about, because the meta was changing even as recently as last night.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff, swapping right now. There's the protector comp coming up right now. I've even seen some players finding success with Brawler Infiltrator, which is one that I'm really curious about. But Fizz 2 is such a strong unit right now. I think there may actually be something there. So, yeah, there's a lot of cool comps. We're still very early in the meta. We're only about, what, 2 weeks in now, if you don't count the PBE practice time that some people had. So there's still a lot of stuff getting figured out. And I think we are in for a great set of games. I'm just kind of curious what people are going to play because, like you just said, Dan, uh, things have been changing so rapidly, right? Where you remember like a week ago, everyone was talking about Astro Sniper being an incredibly powerful comp, Teemo being ridiculously OP, please nerf. And now that comp is kind of solidly, I would say, probably high B tier now, according to a lot of players. And so we're going to see still, probably even today, among these 5 lobbies, big shifts in terms of what is perceived as the strongest way to play the games.
Yeah, and I think that when these players are kind of putting their back to the wall, what are they going to do? Are they going to choose more consistent strategies, or are they going to choose something that's a little bit more risky to try to win? Because if you sneak into top four every
Mhm.
single game, that might be okay to get a third place finish versus some other players who get first a couple times, but also get a bottom four every now and then. So we'll see how the strategies come online here. Is we're going to start things off with Kiyoon, who gets the bow. Kiyoon is a big
Hmm.
fan of cybernetics.
Yeah, he's
Or
been playing a lot of that. I was actually looking at his profile earlier today, and the thing I noticed is that I would say it is mostly cybernetics, but he's playing a lot of Jinx-based builds as well, going a lot of Brawler, Rebel, Jinx packages. So
yeah,
he's
I
been keeping it
actually
varied.
misread. He picked up the tier, not the bow. That was Agon that
Oh,
was able to grab it. But yeah, Kiyoon has shown that he is more than capable of playing flexibly. Kiyoon has also recently started streaming with a webcam, as you can see. He's revealing himself to the world, so to speak, and trying to engage with this chat a little bit more often, using that very cute face of his. So let's see how Kiyoon does. He's got a lot of hype going into this. People peg him as one of the front runners to win the lobby, and we'll see if he can live up to the hype.
yeah, we'll see. Starting off with just like you mentioned, that tier, the poppy, deciding on what he wants to put in. It's a couple different choices here, and it is a treasure trove galaxy as well. So that kind of adds in even more to kind of consider here, where you're going to have access to a lot of items. And so, what do you kind of plan for around that? Because certain comps work a little bit better with like a lot of items than others, right? I mean, all comps benefit from it, but certain comps have more kind of built-in carries that can get even scarier with more access to items.
Yeah, and so with this early tier start and a rod, there's a lot of flexible options that you can go. For the
Uh-huh.
most part, sorcerers are still very viable, but we'll see how he chooses to go about it because sorcerers do have a couple of different builds that you can approach. One of them is playing like a traditional six sorcerer comp, so you can try to play a mech, top end. You can also even just like straight up play a Star Guardian variant, but I feel like you need a
Yeah.
spatula to make that really sing.
Well, it's interesting too because if you look at sort of how sort comps work right now, a lot of them don't really even use that many tiers. Like you would maybe use one tier for like a Shojin's on like a Janna later on, but like the era of like a blue buff or Seraphs as it was back in the day, sort comps is definitely over right now. So he is picking up sorcerers though. There's an Annie. He's got the Shaco. He's keeping himself open. And Mech Sorcerer or some variation of Mech and like 222, where it's like Sork, Infiltrator, and Mystic has been played here and there. So kind of just staying open right now, thinking about the Zed, which,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, early infiltrators has been proven to be really effective. If he does want to go with his Zed, that does build him a bridge of being able to play Rebel Infiltrator, which is pretty solid as well.
right.
Uh, I'm wondering if he's going to level at all because leveling aggressively has been a thing. And he chooses instead to go with the Shaco, which is, just generally more powerful than one star Zed. However, I am curious about what itemization he's going to choose to go about here.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly got a good amount of choices, though. At least it's there. I like right now the early Ludens, but it's not really something you want to slam in a lot of cases. So I'm not 100% on that one. He's obviously not going to build it, but what else? You've already got the opportunity to build like a Runins, I suppose, right now, but you don't really have the units to support it. It's interesting.
Yep. So, again, like keeping his options open. I like keeping the Zoe pair. I know he ended up ditching the R so that he can make the gold. And I think that, sorcerers might not even necessarily be something that his end destination. They can totally be what he holds in place for a rebel switch. We've seen actually that transition happen a lot, which
Mm,
is, rebels, they are very burst heavy. You want to play very similar stuff to a Riven front line as a Gangplank front line with
yeah.
Guardian Angel and Ionic Spark. So, why not just play Sorcerer's Bridge? If you find the Rebels, great. If not, just stick on the Sorcerers and streak through the mid game because win streaking seems more important than ever right now in the current meta.
Oh, for sure. And something like two Vanguard, four Sork, or any sort of any sort of front line with sorcerers is a good way to win streak right now in the game. That said, looks like he's going to win this round. I like the Ionic Spark early on the Nocturne as well. It is a Nocturne 2, and you're going to get a lot of use out of the Ionic Spark with it diving to the back line. And yeah, looks like he's going to be able to streak. Just him, Gunmay, otherwise known as Mino Zerks on this particular account, and DarkHydra, the player, is still at 100 HP so far. Oh, he finds Poppy too. So
Ooh,
I
nice.
like this.
Nice.
Yeah, what do you think about Vanguard infiltrators? I feel like when I do this, I have games where it feels like it's just unbeatable, and other games where it feels like it just can't win at all. It seems less stable than sorcerers, but I'm curious about what your opinions are on it.
Yeah, I think it entirely depends on the texture of the rest of the lobby. So you can see like Agon, for example, automatically selling stuff. You don't have to worry about whether or not you beat him.
Yeah,
If you feel like your opponent's backline is well protected enough, or they're even just playing like a really tanky thing, infiltrators seem a lot less effective. However, it's very common to see people have carries that they want to protect, which is why I feel like infiltrators are particularly very good right now in the early game. So I,
mm,
I would say that if you see your opponent having like a tanky all frontline type composition, like they're playing brawlers and like just like a really tanky vanguard in the front.
yeah.
Infiltrators are a lot less effective then, but from the outside of those situations, it's really good.
Right. If going back to mentioning that big tanky front line, Ari is a really popular early game unit, and that true damage when the orb comes back just shreds all those tanky front lines. So,
Very much so.
yep, all comes down to reading the lobby.
Mhm.
First carousel and interesting item breakdown. Mostly defensive items, but there's gloves included too. Would you can consider gloves a defensive item? It's kind of a little bit of both. I always thought of it as more of an offensive item, but maybe that's more because of the items that are built by the finished items.
Yeah, it's kind of a flex spot. I think most people consider the raw offensive items to be tier, bow, and sword.
Right.
Um, oh, sorry, and rod. And then you have the defensive items being like vest, cloak, and belt. And I think gloves kind of falls into a weird hybrid because it is really
Mm,
important for Last Whisper, as you saw the glove being picked by Kiyoon. It's kind of expensive being on a one cost, but Last Whisper is so crucial given the prevalence of vanguards and just armor based builds.
right.
However, this is not really necessarily an armor-based build from coming out of You Need. He has an early Shinzao too, and we have seen people attempt to play straight up protectors again, very similar to the very beginning of set 3 for Galaxies.
Yeah, Protector Mystics seem to be something that people are experimenting with on the ladder here and there. A lot of that was based around Urgot late game and also making Aurelian Solar Protector if you can. That's something that was so strong that it was hotfixed earlier, but it still is just really, really good on its own. So if you can run a Protector comp and fit that Aurelian Soul in late, that's always a beneficial thing. So we'll see what he goes for. I personally feel like I've struggled a lot against protector comps in particular. So my opinion of this comp right now is that it's very strong, but I also feel like I just haven't seen enough of it to really make a firm judgment on where it fits in the meta at the moment.
Yeah, I think protectors are in a very interesting spot. I think when, your opponents are playing less sniper based builds with like Jin, it makes it a lot harder to answer high health, high stats units like
Hmm.
Shinzao, as well as Aurelion Soul if you can get the spatula. My big problem with protectors is that while it does have some points of flexibility, it also feels kind of narrow with how you end up building. And it does feel very similar to, the Master Yi carry builds with Yasuo Zed and the Six Blade Masters,
Sure.
because it feels very like feast or famine. Either you're like
Yeah,
hitting and
for
getting
sure.
top two, or like you're bombing out in eight, waiting for, the Urgot or the Radiant Soul to fall into your lap.
Well, that's what I was kind of saying too, is that like where it seems reliant on the Protector Aurelion Soul to really be a contender for top one, top two, it does make you kind of, question if it's worth going for. But then you see it in your
Oh,
lobby sometimes, you're like, this is unbelievably strong. But speaking of unbelievable, wow,
look at the
4 or 3
shop.
4 costs. Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, they're premium ones too. Irelia, Jinx,
Yeah.
and Teemo both are capable of being the carriers of your composition. He does
Yeah.
have the Teemo for the immediate sniper bonus, which is nice. And then you could, with these items, still reasonably try to go into a Jinx-based composition. But it looks like Uni instead is just going to leave that up, which hurts me because I feel like these are some of the best units to get direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's expensive to pick them up, but where you're not quite committed to your comp
Wow.
yet, why not just pick up all 3 and just kinda see what you can get? And he's got such good items too. I mean, you can build a Giant Slayer, which is huge in the meta right now. Another thing that tears through, big front lines fairly effectively. So we'll see what he goes for. He seems very committed to protectors. And we'll mention again, Unit is in kind of an unique position in this finals in that he barely missed the top 8 cutoff. He was 2 points off making it, which is a tiny amount. And then with Khroen bowing out, Unit found a surprise opportunity to compete today. So he's got sort of this extra life that no one else in the tournament really got. So he's got an opportunity, and I'm curious to see what he's going to do with it. The
Yeah,
pressure's on for sure.
you mentioned Giant Slayer being really important. It's not even necessarily that like Giant Slayer for the big 80% bonus is like super important. It's just the true
Sure.
damage is really, really good right now.
Oh yeah.
Because of how tanky of a meta it is with, things like Vanguard Mystics or Protectors as you're talking about.
Hmm.
But overall, you can see that you need is prioritizing having the Shinzao 2 be the carry. His big problem is that while he wants to emphasize a protector opening, he isn't getting defensive items. If you look at his drops, actually, like
Yeah.
four of those components were offensive based drops with a tier two rods and a sword.
You
So he's
know,
not exactly in the best spot for protectors. And with this Jin pickup, makes me wonder if he's just going to go ahead and transition to Astro Snipers, which is a really common build that you also see on ladder.
it really feels like the game wants him to go Astro Snipers, doesn't it? And we mentioned earlier that I think it's a lot of players would say that it's probably like an A minus, maybe B plus, maybe even B tier comp right now. It can be very strong if you hit everything. But it's definitely its stock has gone down quite a bit. And where he hasn't picked up a single Vanguard yet, too, it's kind of an awkward transition because these protectors are only going to really carry you so far. So
Yeah,
we'll see how smoothly he can make this swap.
it is interesting that he prioritized that over, say, a Last Whisper. I do know people say Last Whisper is still very crucial on Jin, despite how much single target damage he has. But he still has that glove opportunity. And
Right.
the most important thing that if he wants to commit to this build is getting blue buff on Teemo. When you
Mhm.
combine blue buff with the Astro discount of 30 less mana required to cast, Teemo just
Wow.
basically becomes a mushroom bot, which is very on point thematically, but very stressful for me when I go up against Teemo and I'm trying to get
Yeah.
my Irelia or like, my frontliners to close in on Teemo, and they just take forever to get to that.
See, you just have to count on your Vayne in the back line to finally deal with him. Because I had a game earlier today where my Aurelia, I had to watch her a couple rounds, just like slowly inch her way towards the Teemo while getting continuously pelted by mushrooms. I'm like, come on, Vayne, I'm trusting you now.
Yeah, no. So you need losing here. Piecing together another miniature losing streak isn't the worst thing in the world because if you can prioritize that tier, that'd be good.
Mhm.
On the other flip side of things, it's not like tier's a really contested unit. It might actually be contested by Gunmay because he does have this Cassiopeia too, which I'm sure he wants to also get a blue buff on.
Right.
Because I think Cass also has one of the lowest mana costs in the game at 25. So you want to be able to
Yeah.
get that casting as much as you can.
Yep. Want to get the blue buff, the Morellas on Cassiopeia. I didn't pick up on the Morellos right away with Cassiopeia because I'm like, well, she's only a single target. But then I was playing with you guys and realized that she basically hits everybody because she casts so fast. So
Oh yeah, totally,
yeah.
totally. And now you can see you need making a beeline for that tier. Uh and
Hmm.
Agon and Kiyoon did get to pick first, but Agon actually, let's talk about that. He's at 40 health, and we've seen Agon play very open, high risk, high reward strategies
Hmm.
with his intentional losing streak. And we'll see if he's able to reverse that because Agon's had some really dramatic comebacks before.
Yeah, and he had a great week last week actually. That helped him get into the top 8. So it's a style that seems very risky when you look at how it plays. It like gives you a heart attack every time you watch his POV, but it works out. He's been good at it. He went 5-3, 1 and 2 in his 4 games last week to make it to the top 8. So he's used to playing it. We're gonna jump over and look at what DarkHydra is up to though. Looks like he's going to put in the mech with adding that fizz. But what's important here is that he's got sort of like mech rebels going, which is a comp that's been kind of coming up. You're able to get the rebel buff fairly easily with the Malphite in there, and then the Ziggs also pairs for demolitionists. So this is a new comp people have been kind of polishing over the last week, and I really like where it's going.
Yeah, it's basically a same concept of having Jinx plus some kind of front line. We're talking
Pretty
about
much,
Jinx
yeah.
Brawlers, Rebels Jinx, Mech. I mean, if you think about what the Mech does, similar to Gangplank, an AoE stun because you have Demolitionist buff, you don't
Hmm.
even have to have Gangplank anymore. And also, Fizz is just a really good unit. So if you have the Mech get nuked immediately, he still has a chance to cast. So Jinx Mech is definitely something that I'm keeping on my radar. Personally, I still feel a little bit more comfortable with the Mech Sorcerer, but it
Hmm.
does seem like a really good option to go if you do end up playing Mech and then all of a sudden you find yourself with a bunch of rebels.
Yeah, I would agree that I think Sorcerer is a more sort of stable, consistent way to play mech right now. But I what I love about this is just the synergies that you get access to a little bit quicker in terms of a demolitionist especially, and then also just Jinx kind of being a carry. But I think another thing is that Jinx is just so contested right now because, like you mentioned, like so many builds use Jinx that if you go this route, it can be hard to find that Jinx too. Sometimes we'll see how he
Yeah,
does.
it depends on how he approaches. Some people
Sure.
choose slow roll on 7 so that they can 2-star stuff. And if he can 2-star everything, he'll have one of the strongest comps in the game.
Mhm.
Especially if he's able to get another offensive item onto Jinx, which we'll see what he ends up getting drops on the infiltrator round. But overall, I'm feeling Dark Hydra. I really like that he's adapting some of the newer builds that we see. And other people in the lobby who are playing more stand-up standard, he ends up incidentally hitting, right? He's both
Yeah.
simultaneously shutting down options or contesting like mech sorcerer builds or rebels jinx builds. And it's a really interesting blend of all these kinds of strategies we've been seeing.
Mhm. As he goes on with this build too, he'll probably want to replace like that Ezreal with a Twisted Fate, and then get the Blitzcrank in for a Chrono and Sorcerer from those two. So you can really just add like a ton of side synergies into this. Wow, that seems like a pretty good collection of items. Huh. What can he make out of
Yeah.
this? All right. It's a little bit awkward with the
So
belt on Fizz right now. He'll probably want to find another Fizz and move that.
yeah, he could just transfer it. He also could just make straight
Yeah,
up Trap Claw. I know Trap Claw isn't a very popular item on mech, but sometimes it's totally fine because you absorb like early stuns, and if you can't make QSS, it might be the next best option so that you can get your first cast off.
mhm.
The other thing is that he could just
Ooh,
straight up Thief's Gloves, which I think is also worth mentioning. Ooh, a Rebel
yeah.
Spatula.
Rebel
Right.
Blitzcrank. All right. That's kind of cool. So he gains Chrono with that. He doesn't get Brawler because he took out the Malphite to put in the Blitzcrank, but it's interesting. Having Blitz pull someone away from the mech, or someone from the back line, gives the mech maybe a little bit more survivability because it won't be taking damage right away from one of those carries. Close fight against Agon here, though. Looks like the
Yeah,
mech should come out ahead.
I think so. Just because Yasuo has his GA popped and he still has to take down 3 of
Yeah,
these 1-stars, and while Yasuo is pretty good, he only can really take down 1 at a time.
pretty much. Yeah.
So no slow rolling whatsoever, powering to 8, and this makes sense because rolling is just supposed to make your army stronger. And Dark Hydra's on a win streak. It doesn't seem like anyone can truly beat him right now, convincingly. And even if he does, he's in a prime position for this fast 8. And once
Mhm.
he gets that fast 8, he can go ahead and outfit the rest of his lineup here. He could, go ahead and slap in more rebels. He can play this Gnar and go for brawlers. He's very flexible with how he wants to approach this.
I think the other cool thing to think about too is that since this is a treasure trove, he's going to be able to itemize everything a lot more effectively as well. Like, eventually in the very late game, he might find a carry like Echo or something like that that he can toss in with great items. He's going to get absolutely decimated by Kiyoon though in this
Yeah.
particular one. Wow,
Kiyoon with 6 Blade Masters finds a 2-star Riven before he finds, a 2-star Zed. That's always kind of a weird situation, but
it happens.
when people want to play rebels or play early infiltrators, it does end up becoming pretty contested.
Mhm.
Uh, so we'll see how Keegan's able to carry that momentum because he is now the only player on a win streak, and I believe still that at the top end of things, if everyone can hit their max power level, 6 Blade Masters is still one of the strongest comps in the game right
Yeah, I mean, there's very few comps out there that do such consistent sustained damage, right? Where you've got the insane burst right away because everyone's hitting so fast, but then it just keeps going. It doesn't drop off. And where Riven becomes so tanky with all those shields, it's when it hits, it hits. It's scary. I'm afraid to
now.
even try playing it because when it doesn't hit, it really doesn't hit. But it's a comp of high highs and low lows. I love the
Yeah, for
Nara
sure.
edition here, by the way. Nar is just he's like set one Nar, right? Where like anytime you can put a Nar in your comp, it feels like a good thing. Doesn't look like he's gonna win the round, but I don't think it's because of the Nar. I think it's because of a ridiculously strong protector Cassiopeia.
Yeah, I mean, Protector Cassiopeia is like also low key, like one of the more like dominant forces in the late game, especially if you can somehow like fall into a Cassiopeia 3-star. She just
Yeah.
becomes, like Asol and Shinzao tier of like unkillable unit that puts out, incredible amounts of damage. So we'll see if that ends up becoming a point where he holds on to, or he ends up pivoting into a Aurelion Soul and just giving Aurelion Soul those items.
Right. It's a tough call actually because Cassiopeia is so strong on her own. I mean, Asol probably has a higher top end, and his sort of mana draining features is certainly nice. So we'll keep an eye on that. Carousel, just another normal carousel. The last normal carousel, since we're going to be going into full items after the Raptors here. All right,
All right.
finds a
Well, we're
Vi
gonna
too.
hop on board with Agon, who also seems to be
Hmm.
playing the Master Yi Yasuo 6 Blade Master composition.
Great items, actually. Pretty much perfect items on Master Yi. I believe that's considered the best items right now. It changes a lot, but I think that's the best at the moment.
Yeah.
And then obviously Yasuo has always benefited a lot from GA, and so you can just kind of make him dive in the back lines and do whatever you want after that. So I think Frozen Heart is a nice addition to his kit.
Yeah. Rapid fire cannon plus Ginsu's Rage Blade plus QSS. That is the ideal 3 items in most scenarios. Sometimes you see people play like Bramble Vest or
Right.
Warmogs or something, maybe even double Rage Blade.
Oh, look at him
But
go.
I
Oh.
mean, the problem is that Master Yi being at 2 stars is still a problem. So
Yeah.
Aegon trying to go for this build. He has good items. He even has and Nico's help to maybe get at 3-star Master Yi, but I don't know if he'll have enough time. And everyone else that's online, including Kiyoon, who's managed to preserve his health, might outlive Aegon. And Aegon at his peak power level is going to be really good, but for now, it looks like he's struggling.
It seems like for being at 19 HP, you would have hoped to at least hit one of your 3 stars by now. And the fact that he's really not even that close to hitting any of those means that it's probably going to be a quick exit for Aegon unless things turn around really, really fast. He's essentially got 2 lives at this point.
Yeah, I'm more curious about how Keem's been able to preserve his life. I wonder if it's just because he has better 2 stars as his front line. You look at Aegon, he
Sure.
doesn't really have front line outside of his Shen, and his Fiora is a pseudo, tank in a way because you want her to die for redemption.
Hmm.
But once the Shen falls, it feels like this Master E is really vulnerable. So the longer Shen survives, you might see Aegon finally get the win, and that's because Khroen took forever, and even then
Wow.
after Khroen took a long time to get through Shen and get to Master Yi, Aegon still almost lost. So this is a really scary situation for Aegon.
Yeah, I think one of the only things that saved him is that at this stage in the game, it feels like cybernetics takes a while to sort of like ramp up. Like it deals its damage consistently but slowly, more slowly than other comps. So that was enough time anyway for his E to sort of go off. But Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit worried about Agon here. We'll see what he gets out of the Arc Raptors, but what he really needs is just more champions. He needs some Nikos, is what he needs.
Yeah, I think we can expect to see a major roll down coming from Agon. Does find
Yeah.
a bunch of gold. Does find 2 more components, 3 more
Okay.
components.
Hmm.
We'll worry about that later. For now, I think he wants to focus on his rolls. He can make
Probably.
Zeke's Herald. I think that might be the best. Oh, finds another Master Yi. Here we go.
Yep. See what he finds in the roll down. Got to find a little bit more. Oh, all right. There's
Yasuo.
Yasuo. All right. Oh, almost didn't get that one. Yi.
Oh, we're so close.
He is extremely close. There's
Yasuo
the Yasuo
3.
3. Where's the Yi? Come on.
One more Yi.
Oh,
So close.
oh, that's a heartbreaker because,
Yeah.
the Yasuo 3 is nice, but the Master Yi is really what he wanted to hit there. Like you mentioned, it's the Zeeks, which I
Whoa.
think is a good thing. Did he get that on there? I don't think he got that on there in time. Did
He
he? Did he?
did. He got it
Wow.
just in time, and the Shaco was not able
Whew.
to get through with his Thieves Clubs. Was it by enough time? The Master Yi has woken up. Both players are
Uh,
online with their Blade Masters.
oh no.
Oh!
Oh wow, we won. Huh.
Yeah,
Dude.
and it does really come down to, like, who is able to get the charge off, with by having half health, and
Yeah.
then the other player will end up winning, because 'cause you're able to chop them down while they're charging. Oh, here we go!
Oh, we found it.
Master
All
Yi
right.
3!
That's huge. Man, that is huge, especially when you know you're contested. He might be able to come back now.
Mhm,
Man,
mhm.
Yi versus Yi is such a funny fight to watch. It looks like one of those like Star Wars prequels lightsaber battles where it's like they're swinging really fast, but they're not really hitting anything.
Yeah, I if you can, stand to watch it for that long.
I can't. I
But
can't anymore. Nope.
Aegon repositioning, just trying to keep his blade masters unpredictable, keep his Zephyr dynamic. Look at that Echo do get bounced up. Lev will not have access
That's
to one of
big.
his best carries right now because his Vayne's at 1 star.
Well, Zeko just got insta too when it came down, and yeah, that vein, like you said, being at 1 star, even though she had good items, not able to carry, and it really seems like Aegon has become a serious threat now that he's hit those champions. But that's exactly what we're saying, where it's like, yeah, the items are great and he's got good items, but what he really needed was the champions, and he was able to just barely hit that. So we'll see how far he can make it up the standings now. It's still a dangerous situation because the longer you go, the more close you get to that point where you're just going to lose in one lost fight.
Yeah, very much so. And in the end, like right now, I think Aegon is the strongest person in the lobby.
Could
Assuming,
be.
yeah, everything like everyone else is busy getting things online. Some people still Jinx one, some people found like a single gangplank. But once Aegon is able to finally make that comeback and push a level 8, add in things like another infiltrator, for example, he'll be in a really good spot. He just has to make sure that some of these matchups like Rebels, which can be a lot harder with big stuns and you tend to clump.
Yeah.
If he can just survive these battles, he'll be in a good spot.
No trouble at all going through DarkHydra. Both of his carriers still lived through that. QSS obviously doing big work. Oh, Bard versus
Mhm.
Vayne. I think that's a fight Vayne's probably going to win most of the time.
Yeah, and it's got to feel good for Aegon. Kiyoon, a player that was contesting him, fell to the bottom two. A force of nature on a thresh has
Ooh.
appeared, and you need immediately being for it.
How could you not
Kiyoon,
grab that? Yeah, that is
gonna
that is
grab Thieves
perfect.
Gloves.
Yeah.
That's super good.
You get a
Um,
thresh and a spot to put him in at the same time. I'll take that.
this is kind of tricky because Zed can make use of a lot of good items, but I think in his mind he also wanted to contemplate some tankier items.
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of just slamming Warmogs onto Shen, because just give him maximum time, maximum upside for his protection circle.
Yeah, I could see
However,
that.
I think maybe he wants to just really prioritize the Blade Master buffs and just make sure that they hit super duper hard.
Yeah. It's kind of the oh, I like that on Yasuo. Yeah. It's kind of like what you were saying, right? Where it's like this comp needs to get its damage done up front, right? It can sustain that damage, but it's really kind of bursting and overwhelming your opponent that makes it work. Wow. All right, some upgrades coming through. on other boards here.
Yeah, everyone's getting stronger post carousel. They just got an item. Some people are getting hits. Some people
Mm,
are getting items and hits. Really interesting that Agon's not prioritizing getting maximum Zeke's value, but he's positioning as best he can. He finds a nice pop up there on Daisik's Fizz, so he can't jump to the back line. That's huge.
yeah.
And now like his Master Yi maximum uptime, and now he's chewing through that Gnar.
And the Jinx is doing a lot of damage though, and the back line just not melting as fast as I
Oh,
think Agon would want it to be. And this is super dangerous, but his 3 stars are still alive. Ooh, that was really close. That
super
was
tight.
yeah. All right. He lived.
Outside of Gunmay, everybody else is within striking distance of, either one or two lives. You need down at the very bottom. Khroen at 27. 27 still kind of safe around stage 5, but starting from stage 6, you effectively count yourself at 2 lives or less.
Yeah. Man, like watching Aegon is impressive, but I feel like you need to you need to be on like blood pressure medication or something like that to watch him because it's so stressful watching him go so low in HP. He loves the loss streaks like we were looking at earlier, but
Oh.
he's doing it. He might hit a top 4 here.
Yeah, this is a really scary board, though. Both Irelia and Vayne have fantastic carry items, and the
Yeah.
Echo disabling everything with Swordbreaker and Red Buff. This is a massive loss here for Aegon. And if he's
Yep.
not, I mean, if so many Muse survive, is he even potentially gonna die?
He maybe
Oh,
2 HP
holy cow!
lives for now, just barely, but yeah, that's why we mentioned earlier that he's on a strong win streak and he's got an insane board, but being this low in
Mm,
HP, you still run such a huge risk where you have one bad round like that, and he almost dropped it right there. Mm,
DoA.
those items, yeah,
Fourth place is at 8 HP.
I know,
Everyone
right?
else is below. No one's dead. This is such a tight lobby. And we talk about how important HP preservation is in a game like TFT, but in this meta in particular, it's super important because of how fast you can die. And now
Right.
everybody feels like they're at 1 life except for Gunmay.
I mean, that's the thing. Gunmay is just kind of sitting atop his golden throne right now, with his 63 HP, looking down at all the plebs below. But this is one of the tightest lobbies I think we've seen yet in Giant Slayer series. Some
Yeah.
interesting choices. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, this is probably one of the closest we'll see all tournament because
Probably.
this has a
Yeah.
huge ripple effect because it's no longer like a week to week standings. This is the finals.
Yeah. So you kind of gotta go all in. I mean, sometimes you do see players sort of bomb out. It's all or nothing really, because now you're relying on taking that top 4 spot and taking the risks that comes along with that. I was gonna talk about the item choices he had, but he already made them, so never mind.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's gonna go ahead and commit to playing the Fizz over the Thresh.
Oh,
He's going up
someone's gonna
against
die.
Unid, and I do think Unid is one of the weaker players in the lobby right now because he's very dependent on that Jin and Timo, which is
Right.
infiltrators to be able to jump to the
Ooh.
back line. And now with the Master Yi, oh wait, the crits. It's not gonna
Yeah,
be enough.
that
He needs
Timo
this.
got killed so fast though, and like you mentioned, with the as soon as the Master Yi turns towards the Jin, he just melts basically. So
Yeah.
Deisik, Unid, and Kiyoon all go out during that round. Aegon in 5th. All he needs to do probably is win one more and hope that Lev D loses one, and then he'll be able to secure at least 4th for the first game here.
Yeah, and if I'm Agon, I might just position for Lev because that's like a head to head where it has direct
Yeah,
implications
for
on
sure.
your placing. You get a commanding victory over him, you're guaranteed 4th place.
I think that's a really good point to bring out is that when you're wondering about who to really prepare for in a lobby when you have a big chance to hit a lot of people, prepare for the
Oh,
people you think you can beat is what I
yeah.
always go for. Yeah.
Can he beat this Vanguard
I don't
Mystic
know.
Cassiopeia with the protector chest? And I mean, that's so much frontline match he has to chew through. So he
Yeah.
finally gets focused down. Agon running over because he knows he can't chop through in time. That's
Got me with a win. And
fifth
oh no,
place.
poor
Oof.
Aegon. He died right before Lev did. And so he's going to end up outside of the top 4. Lev just barely sneaking in there
Mhm, mhm.
in the points, as it were. On board with Khroen now, who is having a pretty solid game, second out of the 3 remaining.
Yeah, it seemed like for the most part, cybernetics weren't super contested. It feels
Mm,
like a lot of times in Masters Plus lobby, cybernetics was the most popular comp. But with 2 players going for Bang Bros, with Vanguard Mystic, with Rebels players being high represented, it seemed like cybernetics were very free. And when you put Treasure Trove with like double Infinity Edge builds
Yeah.
on Vayne and Irelia. It looks really good for Khroen. I think he might be a player that could win this lobby. He might not win this
Well,
battle, but pretty close. And things
it
went pretty
was.
well for DarkHydra.
That's the thing. I thought DarkHydra's Aurelion Soul was going to just be a major insane carry, and it did a lot of work, but it did end up really being close down
Mhm.
at the wire. Let's see if Gunmay looks like he was able to beat that ghost from what I can see. Yeah, he didn't lose any HP,
Yeah.
so Gunmay's still on track to at least get top two here. Hmm.
So a lot of interesting items, but all of his carries have been itemized already. I wonder if he actually even wants to just take another component.
Sure, maybe if there's something else he needs to finish. Otherwise, like ZZ Rod is never a bad late game choice. Looking at this carousel.
Yeah, it's awkward because he has a free rod and he has a free belt.
Hmm. Right.
Um, Spatch doesn't really do much in that situation. What do you want to do? You want to, make a Morellonomicon? You can't even really put it on Echo, and you already have one on Vi. So it's actually kind of an awkward situation for Khroen. He had so many options, and yet almost all of them felt like they were mediocre or poor.
So he went for the Zeeks. I was wondering if maybe he would make the Morellos swap out the Fiora and put the Morellos on the Wukong. Sometimes you see that, but I guess this is a way to just capitalize the damage from his cybernetics a little bit more.
Yeah,
Makes
and
sense.
the big thing too is that Khroen doesn't have Thresh. He's reliant on that Wukong, which is solid, but Thresh is really important for the late game of cybernetics.
Right.
Although maybe it doesn't matter because he's playing against a ghost, and therefore Thresh can't pull anything off the bench.
Yep. Could help. Gets bounced around by Jane a little bit. His Vayne is doing work in the back lines, though.
Yeah, it helps a ton. Both
Yeah.
Vanguard Mystics and Cybernetics are very, very dependent
Oh.
on Thresh benches to carry them in the late game.
Hmm.
Although, looks like Khroen already is just
Oh
basically going to
no.
lose. Gunmay's going to beat both Khroen and DarkHydra to grab a first place victory. That's a double
Wow.
kill.
Well, that is it right there for game number one. Gunmay, ever since he had that one bad week and he made that, he made that big tweet, he was really upset with himself. And since then, he has just like come back with a vengeance and he's like carried that power all the way here into the finals. 3.5 has not slowed him down at all. And first place for Gunmay in game number one. Strong start. But I think it's also worth definitely talking about Khroen as well, who has been, a really consistently high performing player in a lot of tournaments. And the consistency he's shown in Giant Slayer Series Season 2 means that if he can keep this up, he may still end up as a points leader at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's the finals. There's going to be 5 lobbies. It's just the beginning, but Gunmay had been looking especially strong leading into the weeks of set 3.5. He
Right.
had done well in, PBE tournaments. He did well last week. And, with that change in direction where he's just hyper focusing, watching a lot of players, not just jamming games mindlessly to try to grind for the snapshot.
Mm,
Overall, Gunmay has been looking exceptional. But so has a lot of these players in the top 8, right?
yeah.
Like that was a relatively disappointing lobby for everybody in that bottom 4. And very easily next lobby we can see that completely inversed.
Well, yeah, it's a tough lobby, especially because we had that one point where the difference between like fourth place and eighth place was like 2 HP or something ridiculous like that, right? So for players like everyone else who suffered, that's one of those ones where it's like, all right, it was just a tight lobby. Every HP counts. I'll come back and do better next time. I'm very curious to see how Unit is going to perform overall throughout the course of the day. We know he kind of got a spot the last moment, but he's also the number one player on the EU West server right now too. So he has been really like dominating the ladder, and whether there's a correlation between ladder performance and tournament performance, it seems like that probably isn't the case from what we've seen. But he is a player finding a lot of success in the game overall right now, and that'd be cool if that translated.
Yeah, there's obviously certain aspects from ladder translate to tournament, how well you're able to play, your knowledge of compositions, your adaptation and flexibility.
Right.
But in tournaments, it also really comes down to your macro strategy, right? Like some people will be trying to play relatively conservative stuff, like okay, the best comps in the game are this. I'm gonna try to sneak in top 4 every single time. But we're also talking about people who want to go for the win in a small subsection of lobbies. So people who say, I really believe this comp can go top 2 every single game. And even if I bottom 2, I'll risk that to try to get major points. We
Right.
actually saw some of these players in a different series that we casted DoA back in the previous expansion all entirely. back when Blender Nocturne Blender comps were really,
Yeah.
really popular, and people have said, you know what, I'm just gonna go all or nothing onto this because it's clearly the best composition in the game, and that led to some really polarized results. People like Delicious Milk and Khroen were getting first or eighth, nothing in between.
Mm. Pretty much, yeah. That seems so long ago. That was last December now that that was happening. But it was also a time where spatulas were much easier to find.
Oh yeah, it felt like one was guaranteed on the first carousel and one was guaranteed on the second. Even though that wasn't really the case, it always felt like that, and people were really jockeying for position.
Yeah.
But here we go into game number two, Nicoverse here, Doa. So, do you like any specific compositions when you approach this galaxy?
I think it's more important than ever actually to remain open when you run into a Nicoverse because there's so many good forecasts to, buff up, whether it's the Jinx, whether it's the Victor, if you're going for something Sork based. Fizz is so strong right now. So I don't know. I think it's tougher than ever actually. Aurelia, I suppose, even though she's kind of fallen off a little bit. But then again, with the strength, the individual strength of 5 cost champions in 3.5, there's more incentive than I think there was in the past to wait for the 5 costs instead of just the 4 costs in Nicoverse. So it's a really interesting galaxy right now. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think that Nicoverse is probably one of the most interesting and dynamic galaxies because
Yeah,
the timing on Nico's is entirely like up to the player. And I've seen some people, greed, say like, I'm just gonna hold for the 2-star carries, right? Like if I find an early Jinx, if I find an early Aurelia, and they just jam that. I've seen some people use it on really early champions as well, just to guarantee win streaks.
sure.
Back in the day, it was like a 2-star Jace or like a 2-star Darius or something like that.
I
And
think you can
then,
make an argument for like a Vayne or something like that if you're going cybernetics these days.
yeah. Also, if you're gonna play, the Mastery comps, I've seen people just 2-star
Yeah,
Mastery and then level as quickly as they can to 7, start re-rolling immediately and get that edge over others, and then preserve their HP because when you do play like I look at Agon's results, and I think Agon looked like he could have gotten top two, but he just didn't have enough health, right? Because he just ran
mm,
into a couple bad matchups with a couple of bad battles that didn't go his way. And you need that extra health buffer. So even sometimes when you're like not going for that 3-star or that definitive 2-star unit, you can go ahead and jam that Nico, which makes it so interesting.
yeah. We'll see what players have in mind. Pretty good start for Gunmay actually, right off the bat, finding 2 2 stars pretty early is always strong. So he's got the brawler buff, which is like, it's okay early, but the TF2 is gonna carry you a lot in some of these early rounds. Can do a lot of damage
Yeah,
potentially, but you really need the Sork buff though too.
Yeah, Sword Buff is really nice. He doesn't really have a good slammable item outside of Frozen Heart right now. Titan's
Yeah.
Resolve and Static Shiv are okay. They're not like ideal situations whatsoever. Looks like Gunmay is going to commit to the no full item component slam.
Mhm. You notice too that he didn't commit to like an early level 4 or anything like that as well. So I think this is good. I think you haven't quite hit even though you've got a couple 2 stars, you're a little bit off on items, you're a little bit off on synergies. So why not just play it slow and see whatever wins you can get? And it looks like you may still be able to get a win right here, which is pretty nice. Wow. But it's against Agon, and we know Agon loves to open for it early on, so maybe not a big surprise there. Oh wow, find some Malphite too. Still a good start.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about what's the best fourth unit to put in right now. He does have the flexibility of selling some of his bench and putting into another unit here. He doesn't have the
Sure.
rebel buff unless he puts the Zed and the Ziggs. He could just immediately get Battlecast energy, but Battlecast is minor at best. It's kind of like equivalent to like a Giant's belt that you added onto a unit. So
Yeah.
minor, not huge, but sometimes it can be
I
clutch.
mean, if it's going to be good anytime, it's the really early game. So if you're going to
Right,
ever put
exactly.
Battlecast in intentionally, it's going to be now, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that 70 healing from Battlecast 2 actually might be relevant, in the
Yeah.
early game here.
In the
Um,
early rounds, it does make a difference, but not for
yes.
very long. Yeah. What
Yeah.
I like too is that he's got components for a good brawler blaster comp or a good jinx based comp here. And he's holding on to some of that. And so this is something where on a Nicoverse, if you find a jinx and you find, say, like a belt or gloves, suddenly you can get maybe that like red buff last whisper jinx and kind of go from there.
Yeah, totally. I think that's one opportunity to explore. If he gets a last whisper, you can also just kind of spread these things out and just play cybernetics, and that's partially
True.
why those two comps feel really good to main, so to speak, right now. If you choose to play rebels slash jinx and cybernetics, they use similar items across the board. And you should be able to piece together something if you find last whisper and a couple of other good items.
I think one of the things that I really like about 3.5 right now is that it feels like most of the top comps can use most of the items very effectively. You're gonna always have a carry that can use something in most cases, which I feel like before you were very divided between like tanky items, AD items, AP items, right? And this comp uses AD items, this comp uses AP items, and there was not a lot of crossover on the comps themselves. But yeah, now I feel like you've got a lot more comps where a lot of the items feel more usable, than before.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's one of the underappreciated things about just this current set in general, which
Mhm.
is that item balance seems to be a lot better. And there's almost
Definitely.
uses for every kind of item. I would say that in the past, especially for set number one, it felt like some items was just like you should never build them, like ever, for any reason.
Yeah.
And now it does feel like situationally every item has really good uses. Might even be like best in slot, despite it not conventionally being the case.
Oh, he finds a Riven, but he doesn't really have a great setup to incorporate this. That said, just putting in a Riven sometimes is worth it. And it does give you Chrono, so you might be tempted to swap that Caitlyn out. We'll see what he goes with. We're gonna watch Deisik for a while instead. See what he is up to.
Deisik does have the early Warmogs on
Ah,
Shinzao and
yeah.
the Shojins on Rakan, so this heavily leans towards a Protectors opening.
Mhm.
Protectors is pretty powerful on Nicoverse if you can find, early Urgot or Aurelion Soul.
Right.
Um, the key to unlocking all of that is Shinzao 2. Shinzao 2, if you're able to get it early, allows you to just prioritize leveling over rolling because Shinzao 3 and Rakan 3 aren't as big of a priority right now in the Protector build, despite their, historically, you used to like go for that every single game. So I'm curious
Yeah.
to see how Dasik's going to approach it.
Yeah, they're still strong if you can get them, but they're not really a necessity for the build anymore. Looks like he's gonna lose this one. That's a Zaya with the last whisper. Oh, he didn't lose.
We
What?
sure? We sure, man?
Wow. I thought I was, but I guess I was wrong. All right. He
Oh,
finds the Jins out too.
yeah. That is,
Zaya ain't what she used to be. We'll put it
yeah.
that way.
Yes, I mean, the 5 AD makes a huge difference that fight,
I
we're talking
guess.
about it was like, "Oh, you nerfed Xayah, you took 5 damage away." I'm sure we can give that 5 damage back to Xayah, and, uh, it might actually make her relevant. I personally think Xayah
Maybe.
might be the weakest champion in the game right now in the vacuum, but she still has some important tags every now and then to splash in.
I mean, you can still give her a ton of attack speed and she can be useful. Like Shredder is like a C tier comp, I would say right now. I wouldn't ever
That's
play it,
generous.
but it's still there. Yeah, I mean, like you heard the hesitation in my voice, but I would say if like you get like 6 Zayas in the first 2 rounds or something, maybe. Even then,
What?
I don't know. I don't
Is
even
this
know.
Shinzao 2 gonna beat a Teemo 2? You gotta be kidding me.
I guess so.
Oh my goodness, Gunmay would probably be
Yeah, the question
so
mark. I'd be
tilted.
throwing that down too. I think everybody's underestimating the damage that Jin Zhao is doing right now.
Oh, jeez.
That's that's something I feel like I've always done with protectors is I've always underestimated the amount of actual hurt Jin Zhao can put on people.
Yeah, it's just that he stays in the fight longer. He's kind of, he's like he's got that wrestler stamina. He's just gonna outweight you in the
Sure.
battle.
It's all
Um,
the armor actually, it's just heavy.
Yeah, and
That's where the
actually
weight
what's
comes
really
from.
important is also the back line because the thing is Shinta will take a long time to die. It almost feels like if your opponent doesn't has also a good front line, you're guaranteed to go to overtime. But
Mhm.
we've been seeing a lot of people like play infiltrators in the mid game for that. So I really like that as a choice. Um, and then I've even seen some people play like protector infiltrator get overwhelmed by mechs, then just kind of pivot to mech, play Warmog on the mech, and then just go from there and
Yeah.
just land comfortably into the top two. So you do have pivot options, even though it does feel like you're kind of on a path. Speaking of pivot options, finds a vein, instantly slams his last whisper, and is now thinking about how he can use this as a transition.
Yeah, there's a number of different things you can do with this. You can probably go snipers out of this. You might be able to go cybernetics. Seems like cybernetics is a more stable as Deisik looks around the lobby a little bit. But
Hmm.
either way, that vein with that item right now is going to be a strong addition to the team.
Yeah. I mean, in some protector builds, you can just play snipers. That's kind
Yeah,
of what
true.
makes protectors really interesting right now. Is that it's a very loose synergy. It's kind of like saying you want to play vanguards. Like, okay, you're going to play vanguards, and what? You can't just
Yeah,
play vanguards. And that's the same concept. You can play protectors, but there's still like 4 slots open on your team. So some people play snipers. Some people play infiltrators. Some people play 4 mystics. Some people even play like jinx, because apparently you can just
mm.
put jinx in everything. And
Yeah,
you play like
yeah,
a
that's
three
pretty
rebel
much it.
shell.
I mean, Jinx with two other rebels. Yeah, I think that fits in nearly any with it fits with nearly any front line right now.
Right, right.
So he tossed a couple vanguards in there as well. So this is just nice because you can protect your snipers from getting pulled, and now you've got just sort of strong units on the back in case infiltrators jump back there. This is just a good all-around comp for the mid game, I think.
Yeah, does have to be careful of Khroen. He does have the rapid fire cannon on the Cassiopeia, which looks really strong. And when you
Sure.
get a cast early too, with like a reasonable front line, Vanguard Mystics win streaks very easily while everyone else is trying to get their composition online.
Right. Well, see what this Ari can do to his team. Ari
Yeah.
is dangerous. That is a lot of true damage. You can see Xin Zhao getting a little bit low, but not going down. And while Xin Zhao is not going down, you do have Vayne and Caitlyn just annihilating everybody in the back line.
Yeah. Front line is just so important, and you can see why. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, Unique is not weak. It's just that Unique doesn't have enough to chew through that front line. And by the time it went down, Vayne and Caitlyn could just target down the carries. So
right.
that puts Daisy comfortably in the top two right now as he figures out his transition. Ash is a good pickup. Jin is the other sniper. And from there, he can go ahead and play a 4 celestial comp. He could end up playing, full on protectors and get that Urgot. He's going for a 4 Celestial 3 sniper setup, so
All
you
right.
can see
I
how
don't
much
mind
he's
this.
prioritizing trying to get online and get stronger.
I mean, he finds the Rakan too as well, so that front line gets even better. And the Rakan with the Shojins, I think that's the thing is that the items that he's built, the full items that he's got, are all like very very good items for the champions that are using them. The Shojins on Rakan, the Warmog's on Jin Zhao, the Last Whisper on Vayne. So he's really making the most of his items that he's seen so far.
Yeah, I think that, I've played a lot of games of Protector in the past 3 days in particular.
Hmm,
I got top four one time, but the thing is, I felt like I learned a lot, and I had like a lot of lessons to take away after every single game. And my conclusion was this: is that Protectors is a comp that you can't play the same way every single game. You have to actually just kind of adapt to whatever you're given. Like in this case, he would love to have Bramble Vest and QSS on Shinzao, but he's not going to be able to guarantee that. He got like a tier and a sword, and those are a little bit awkward. He got like,
right.
multiple offensive items. So he's like, okay, I'm going to outfit Rakan and snipers in the process. And so you have to be very flexible despite staying in this very narrow lane of having a protector shell.
Yeah, for sure. Waiting his turn to pick from the carousel. There is a spatula on there. Hasn't been picked up yet,
Yeah, if he can
but
get
if
that, it'd be
you're,
huge.
I was gonna
It'd be
say,
monumental for his success. Oh my
yeah,
gosh, are you
you gotta
serious?
go for this, right? The
Yeah.
opportunity of having Protector Aurelian Soul is just
Wow.
too good, and he gets it. Okay, because he's already got the belt too. So
Oh my
now suddenly, if you're
goodness.
Dasik, you're like, all right, Protector seemed like a good decision.
That's wild to me. Not only that, it's on a high cost unit. It's on a Soraka, so he gets 4 gold. That is
Right.
a very nice sell back opportunity. So, Dasik was already looking very solid the moment he hit Shins out too. I anticipate him to be looking good for the rest of the game now.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is he still hasn't used his Nikos yet either. So as soon as he hits that, and he can, find like an Aurelian Soul, ideally find the Urgot, he can make one of those a 2-star and be very, very strong. We're gonna take a look at Lev D and see what he is working on. Looks like a little bit of Brawler Blaster. All right, yeah, has good items on the Lucian, but still just 1-star Lucian. So perhaps not as strong of a board as you'd want to have by this point in the game, but certainly strong enough to get wins here and there, although he is on a little bit of a loss streak at the moment.
Yeah, Lev kind of stuck in this position where he's got really
Ooh,
good
close.
items. He's got pretty decent synergy. He doesn't have 2 stars. And I think that's like, just one of the very common problems that you can experience on stage 3.
Yeah.
And it really does depend on the player because some players say, you know what, I'm just going to roll on 7, forget this, like rolling early before that. The problem is sometimes you trade off so much HP that you're in a position where you have to hit, right? Like if I don't,
Yeah.
I have to roll down. I roll down to 30, don't find anything. I have to roll down to 20, don't find anything. I have to roll down to 10 because I'm committed at this point. And that kind of puts you in the corner. So I do appreciate rolling on 7, but Lev might bleed a lot of HP going into that point.
Luckily for him, he's only one away from the infiltrators as far as rounds goes. So, you don't want to be sub 60 usually for infiltrators, but if he wins this round, he won't be in that terrible of a shape. It's Lucian versus Lucian, and his looks a little bit better, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
Unless you're Agon, who's comfortable playing at 20 life
Right?
at infiltrators, I would recommend the same.
Yeah.
Um, Important win here for Lev, but not necessarily in the good way. I think if he could choose, he would lose again. He just snapped his losing streak the moment before PV round,
Yeah.
and I think he wants that extra gold. Does find a jinx though, that's huge.
Okay. Yeah. Instant cell solution.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm.
When you play rebel comps or jinx comps in general, Infinity Edge is not really recommended for like rebels because you have so much splash and AoE and you want to prioritize other items instead. But
Sure.
when you're playing a brawler blaster and you don't have nearly as much frontline nuking through Gangplank, your frontline nuke is pretty much just Gnar.
Mm.
Then you do want to give Jinx those damage items so that way she can scale into the late game. So, Lev with proper itemization here. If I had another pair of gloves, I struggled just to get
Ooh.
one. This guy got 4 gloves this game.
I don't know. I feel like I always get too many gloves in my games. Sorry if me and Lev are taking them all.
Right.
I feel like I never see swords in my game, but
Yeah.
that's a whole different thing. He's gonna have a really good jinx. Do you think it's worth Nicoing the jinx here?
I think so because then that allows
Yeah.
him to go for fast 8, and I think that ultimately the big problem is that he needs to actually start winning. Like now that
Right.
especially now that he slapped his losing streak, there's like no incentive to keep losing anymore outside of just like trying to greed. And I think this is the right call. I would like to see Gnar item separate a little bit more from the pack because I worry that Gnar is not going to actually cast his ability now by the time the fight's determined.
I mean, it's tough, right? Because you want Gnar in the front because you want him to, get hit so he casts his ult, but then you also want him to stay safe. Looks like he's gonna
Yeah.
win this round either way. There's a Victor 2 over there, but no items on it.
Yeah,
But
you need that level
yeah.
6 as well. So this was actually perfectly fine. It's just one of those things where, like, when you put Thief's Gloves on and you have like a giant spell, Gnar does get a pretty significant boost. He's got 750 health from the Brawler bonus. He's got
Right.
an extra 200 from the Giant's Belt. Like, you can go ahead and isolate him a little bit more, in my opinion. But that's just me.
Probably. I think right now too, where most of his front line is 1 stars, he's maybe a little bit nervous about keeping his jinx that exposed.
Sure.
Looks like he's gonna go ahead and backline some stuff too. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
like this better. Kind of like staggering
Sure.
the front line so that Alawi still draws most of the aggro, but units on the left side will start targeting Gnar, so he's splitting a little bit of it. I think it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gives
Yeah,
the
this is going to be a
jinx
much more
plenty of time.
impactful Gnar. Oh,
Right.
wait, never mind. He got nuked by the Ezreal. Take
Dude,
it
I'm
back.
starting to get scared of Ezreal, by the way. We can talk about that more later as his jinx. Does she have enough? Does she have enough to win
No.
this one? I don't think so. No. Oh, it was close.
Protector Kate.
Yep. Hey, that'll go on a much scarier
Sure.
unit later. But no,
Yeah.
Ezreal is starting to scare me because his EMP is really good. His ult, it does an okay amount of damage, but when you get some mana items on him and he starts casting ultimates very quickly, he can start to kind of dominate fights. I'll never forget the game I played against somebody who had double Shojin's Ezreal 3 somehow, and it just dominated my team. I had a great comp too, but they were just always EMP'd and always taking huge bursts of AoE damage. So there
Yeah.
was a small point in time in set 2 where you could run Glacial with an Ezreal carry, and I wonder if maybe we're going to have a small window for Ezreal carries in a set 3 here too. That's out
Yeah.
there. That's a very DoA thing to say. That's weird, but I'm having thoughts about it.
He has been reworked a little bit, or at least changed of his numbers, so he's more utility focused. But I
Yeah,
could easily see like Ezreal being more valuable as the set develops. In general, I think utility like that, whether it's Shroud of Stillness, Zephyr, in this case Ezreal, I think those things gain value as the comps become refined, and you need to find other edges to win battles. But for now, it seems like Ezreal's kind of more of a synergy slave. Having
for
the
now.
chrono and the blaster effect.
His day might be coming though. He is part of two very, very good synergies in Chrono
Yeah.
and
Oh, he's got
Blaster.
great tags. He's got
Yeah.
fantastic tags, which is the best part about it. Oh, and
So
Lev
I do
can't get the
wonder.
other Gnar. Guess he takes the
He gets an
Urgot.
Urgot. All right.
Yeah, so Lev also did something somewhat controversial. He slammed the Luden's Echo, which is great because Luden's Echo still has a lot of use, especially if you're playing things like Fizz, just to give him like AP and the mana, and you can put
Mm.
it on Aurelion Soul. The only thing is that he was one round away from the carousel. So when I say
Yeah.
controversial, it's like he could have just waited one round and maybe saw the item that would if it would have potentially changed the outcome. But overall, not a major complaint. Just like a small thing at best.
I agree, though. It is a little bit surprising to see a pro do that before they would have access to more choices, basically.
Yeah.
On board with DarkHydra net right now, who has opted to go for
Ooh.
the Gangplank. Yeah, so no Mystic Vanguard in the traditional sense for him, bypassing the 4 Vanguard to fit a GP in there. But if you've got the GA and you've got a Gangplank too, why not? This may not be this might be a pretty good adaptation.
Yeah, this looks like to me the opportunity for DarkHydra to actually pivot away from the Mystic comp. He could actually feasibly go for a Rebels transition. Oh, that's a bad loss to Lev.
Yeah,
Oh
it
my
is.
gosh.
Well, that's the thing
That-
is that now you're
Oh.
kind of like trapped between comps, where you don't have the tanky front line that gives Cassiopeia enough time to do her thing, but you also don't have enough things supporting the GP damage to let him nuke teams. Like you don't have the Sork buff, you don't have a
Mhm.
death cap on GP. So he's kind of trapped between two worlds right now. So I think you're right that he's going to need to pivot one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, he does have the bar to try to farm a little bit of EXP. I imagine that after this round, the final round of components, he's going to level to 8 and just see what he can get, and then perhaps use his sneak on the last option there.
Sure.
But it's not looking good right now for DarkHydra unless he's able to find good pivots.
Yeah, it's too late to kind of build up that sorcerer board. I wonder what you do here out of this particular spot because you can see that GPL just honestly doesn't do a whole lot of damage. He
I
may
mean,
have
it's
gotten
pretty
enough time
good.
this time though.
It's pretty good. It's just it's not the overwhelming follow up that you anticipate. Like he
Yeah,
actually relied on a second GPL to clean up everything.
right.
Otherwise, Cass would have to like heavy load everything else. Because
You cannot count on getting 2 GPLs in one fight.
yeah, it's definitely dicey to say the least. He does have the Ziggs in the shop right now, which makes me think that is something that he can potentially explore. If not,
Mhm.
it's just another unit to put at 8. Um, and
I would be
quite
totally in favor of dropping 4 Mystics to get Demolitionists in there.
well, I mean, you could just level 8 and put it in too. That
No,
works
that's
as
true
well.
too, yeah. Yeah.
The interesting thing is that DarkHydra is playing like a very high flex style right now,
Mm,
where he could still sneak in the top 4 just purely off of playing good units. Lulu goes in over the Bard. He puts in Demolitionist. He finds a way to squeeze in Janet for the 3rd Star Guardian. All of a
right.
sudden, you're just kind of playing quality units, and you might just like have too much momentum, right, to that your opponent can't really stop you because you just have too much high quality stuff wailing on your army.
True enough. There is definitely such a thing as a star power in the game. And I'm not talking about like stars as in 1 star, 2 star, 3 star. I'm talking about just like the stars of the set on an individual level, which is a lot of those high cost champions. So he does find a rumble. And so he gets a demolitionist.
Okay, Lulu, which is really significant. If
Yep.
I guess if he could wish he could take that back, maybe Steve's gloves would go on Lulu, so that way he can
Yeah.
get some better stats. But hey, at least he has Lulu there.
Oh, put the tier on Lulu, right? All right. Wants a faster GP ult.
Yeah, lots of regrets though. That double death cap ribbon with the vest, also getting healed from the Soraka. That's so big. The Star Guardian, or rather the Sorcerer build from Agon, destroying DarkHydra's army, and looks like he's on his way to a fast bottom 2 here.
It's so funny because Death Cap is almost a defensive item on Riven because of what it does for the shield and not to mention what it does for the damage. So yeah, it's gonna be tough. And you know, like I mentioned, that GP is just not gonna be doing a whole lot. Like again, like I think Gangplank out is strong, but what really makes it game winning is either pairing that with some damage items like a Death Cap or with damage
Mhm.
synergies like the sorcerer buff.
Yeah, and it's still not a bad situation. This is just not really like like a very strong top 2 composition. I could actually see this comp going top 4. Ooh, wow, that's
Still
a nasty
possible.
mech sorcerer comp on either side, though.
That's the problem. This the GP is not going to kill the mech. It's not even going to come close. It kind of grazes the back line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the Cassiopeia does a
Still though.
pretty good job of, and even if he
Oh,
does lose, it's not going to be losing by too much.
yeah, but he can't lose by much at all anymore. He's down to 6
Yeah.
HP. That's his last life. So, you know, sometimes this happens though, right? Where you find an early unit. Like he probably found that GP when it was like a 1% chance. He's like, "Oh my gosh, 2-star GP. I've got to do this. It's so strong." Like and it's really easy to get kind of baited into that sometimes. And I have a feeling that that's kind of what happened here for DarkHydra, where the GP2 looks strong on the surface, but then without anything to really support it, it just drops off so much, you know?
Yeah, and right now you're seeing basically the ramifications of that.
Yeah.
Um, at best, we might see Dark Hydra survive 1 or 2 more rounds, but it looks like he is kind of destined to finish in the bottom 4 here.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, this GPL is very good. It catches everything, gets 2 strikes.
It's a lot of 1 stars too, but the Soraka heal though.
It's nasty. Yeah,
Yeah, the
it's
big heal
good.
comes through. Definitely in a lot of trouble here. Yeah, the Mystic buff and everything too, helping the Soraka get a lot of those heals. So it looks like that's going to be the end of it for Dark Hydra. Agon lost as well, and he's down to 5 HP. So he's the next person on the chopping block here. But Dark Hydra exits in 7th. Kiyoon actually out in 8th. And wow, this is an interesting carousel. Huh?
Yeah, I mean the GA looks really good, but you need prioritizing the Chalice of Power. That is a really
Why not?
powerful item in sorcerers in particular. So more so than just survivability. Enhance your burst. It seems to be a burst heavy lobby,
Yeah,
especially when you look at Agon's Star Guardian sorcerer build.
yeah, for sure. I think you need to get as much damage up front as you possibly can to kind of burst through things. Janna, probably not.
Janet is
Well,
interesting.
probably okay. You do see Janna in mech builds sometimes. Doesn't look like level 9 is going to be an option for him this game. And the question
He,
always is, what do you give up to put in, you know, to put this
yeah,
Janna
the
in?
direct 1-to-1 is Soraka, but looks like he's
Sure.
evaluated it and said like it's not super important.
Yeah, you lose Mystic. I do think Ari is an upgrade over the Syndra here. Oh, all right.
Okay,
Interesting.
so this Victor, actually this Echo jump to the back line is really important because it messes up the Victor ability. Agon, if he knew he was going to match up, that is some real big galactic brain thinking because now Unique is completely crushed, and that
Yeah.
is the outcome of Victor's ability. He will be targeting the closest to the farthest, and sometimes that ends up really messing with things like Infiltrator.
Yeah, pretty much. Aegon again, super low HP, but finding some wins here and there.
That's right.
All right.
That gangplank is tempting, but he ends up passing it, looking for another Lulu of some kind. Doesn't find a good opportunity to swap in Xerath as well. Xerath is kind of another
Ugh.
like big nuke for your Sork.
Right, right. Yeah, it's tough if you don't really have any items for Xerath.
Mhm.
He's so squishy. Yeah, the Lulu too would be big, but this could be his last life. We'll see. He's matching up against Gunmay, who is currently 4th in the lobby, also playing Mech Sorcerer. But he does have the stun though, which might make the difference.
Yeah, Gunmay is playing more of the mech that we saw Khroen play, a week or so back, which is a very versatile split of Mystics,
Yeah.
Darkstar,
Oh,
Sorcerers, and it looks like the
do
Victor's not
this.
going to chew it through fast enough. If you look at Gunmay's items, it's kind of subpar for a Victor.
It is, yeah, and you and I have had a lot of conversations about this with our little like TFT play group, where what the strongest version of mech is, and the sort
Oh,
of version that Khroen was playing, which is like mech 222, is nicely well rounded, and that's a big hit with the Lulu 2 there, but it just lacks the punch that Force Sorcerer can have sometimes, and I think that may have
yeah.
led to Uni getting the win in that round.
I will say that it's uniquely positioned in this lobby because 3 out of the top 6 players have heavy sorcerer damage-based compositions.
Sure.
So I think, outfitting Mystics is really important in this lobby, which is, not a surprise to see Khroen with his Mystic build do very
Whoa.
well, and,
Whoa.
Deisik with the Protectors.
Well, so we can make a protector spat out of this, I guess, which is not super useful.
Not on Zoe. It actually could be
No,
kinda useful on Ari because she casts all the time.
could be. I mean, you could make an argument for putting Urgot in there. Um,
Yeah.
huh?
Well, the thing is you don't really have space for an Urgot. This is kind of airtight
Yeah.
synergies, so,
Well, that's the
I
problem too, is that he's not really in a position to consider level 9 this game, which may be what he kind of
yeah.
needs.
Yeah, and, you look at, how things are shaping up, and in the end, it looks like Uni is just gonna try to play for a top 4. He's going up against a Jin 3 from Daysig with the Protector spat on his Aurelion Soul.
Oh boy.
That's gonna be hard to stop. Oh, that Jin gets
Yeah,
stunned with the Zoe, though. Is that enough time? The Lulu casts her Polymorph, but there's just too much damage.
he's healing so much too. Like that's gonna be a problem. He's dead.
Oh, no. Is Gunmay out
All
now?
right. Yep.
Oh,
Gunmay
Gunmay's
out
out in
in
5th.
5th. Yikes. So first to 5th for Gunmay. And that is a lot of ergots actually for a Khroen right now.
Holy
He's got a Thresh
moly.
and he's got 3 more ergots on the bench. He could make a Lulu 2 here.
Interesting. Prioritizing Soraka too. I mean, I like it. Vanguard Mystic stays in the battle for so long. Soraka sometimes has even better value than Lulu because she's putting team wide heals, and that's so crucial, especially
Yeah,
if your Cassiopeia gets targeted.
I'd agree. I think that's a nice little play that a lot of people would probably not make. They'd probably say, "Oh, well, Lulu 2 is so big, right?" But I think you're right, where
Yeah.
Soraka 2 might get you more mileage at this point in the game.
Yeah, I mean, he has Lulu 2 in the shop as well, so he'll be able to pick it up when he survives this round. This Urgot gets pulled in, but it's so late into the fight. Agon Sorcerer build with that Aurelion Souls as a Star Guardian is crushing everything, and that Riven just refuses to die with double death cap.
Yeah, it looks like Lev D is gonna get taken out as well, so it's gonna just be the top 3 now. Deisik, Agon, and Khroen. And no matter how this ends, we talked earlier about Khroen's consistency. And so we got number 2 in game number 1, and he's going to get at least third in game number 2. So great start to the day for Khroen, no matter how this ends up.
Yeah, you love to see it. Those items on Wukong are so good if it was on Lulu. I mean, it's pretty good on Wukong itself, but
Yeah,
yeah, would be
what can
really
you do?
nice. Dasik looks kind of unstoppable, to be honest. And then he just lost to Agon. Is this a guaranteed 3rd place for Khroen? We're about to find out. Jin 3 and Aurelion Soul Protector spat, but that Shinzao is also hard to take down.
I mean, if that Urgot doesn't eat the Jin 3, I don't really know how you win this. He pulls in an Urgot
Oh, the
1.
Urgot hurts to Shinzao. That's step 1.
All right. Second Urgot.
Oh, the
Can you get
Aurelion
him?
Soul, step
Oh,
2. And now it's just Jin left against the rest of the
not
army
like
here. Oh,
this.
the Urgot.
The Jin 3 stands alone at this
Oh
point.
my goodness.
Wow.
The
He did
positioning
it.
from Khroen was so smart. He
Yeah.
knows that his Urgot's gonna get pulled in with limited range. So instead of just like, oh, whatever unit gets pulled into that Urgot can pull from the back, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna position my Urgot to most likely target that Xin Zhao. Very, very intelligent positioning with the Thresh in that stage of the game here. Breaking up things like his Zeke's best positioning in order to maximize the chance that Urgot would reel in that Xin Zhao.
Mhm. And so, almost a 1v1. Aegon's still hanging on at 3 HP, and props to Aegon for making it all the way up to 3rd place
Mhm.
after dropping super low again.
Yeah, very much so. The hard part is right now, which is he does first of all, it's 50-50 on whether or not he plays Aegon and Daysik and whether or not he plays a clone.
Right.
But the hard part is you can predict a little bit of how Shinzao is going to go. You can even kind of predict where Ribbon's going to go sometimes. you cannot predict where Aurelion Soul is going to travel. The
No.
Aurelion Soul Urgai dynamic is one of the most hard and abstract things to predict, and so we'll see if it ends up coming into play here.
Yep, pull. Oh, he brings in the Urgot too for the first pull.
Yeah,
Immediately eats, but he doesn't eat Aurelion
right.
Soul. That said, Aurelion Soul taking a lot of damage here. He's going to go down anyway. More Urgots hitting there. Can he beat the Riven? Oh, he grabbed the Riven. That'll do it.
Yeah.
I think that'll do it.
Agon looks like he is out too, so it's
Yep.
just Khroen and Deisik, another EU versus NA showdown here.
And it really comes down to, who does the Urgot eat? Urgot giveth and Urgot taketh away sometimes. So
Yeah,
we will
for
see
sure.
who Urgot
This
is favoring
is
today.
this is really scary. He hit his Aurelion Soul too. He even has a Thresh himself, but
Yeah.
he lacks any kind of counterplay to this Thresh right now. Doesn't have Zephyr, doesn't have any Mana Reaver, he doesn't have any Shroud of Stillness. So he's just kind of at mercy of how Aurelion Soul chooses to path here.
Right. All right. Let's see what happens. Khroen. He gets okay, so not the biggest Urgot pull initially.
Yeah, this is good for Deisik. Oh no, the Shinzo gets pulled in. That's so big for Khroen.
Yeah. Second one was big. All right.
Oh, the Thresh dies though. Thresh can't pull in the last Urgot. Now Aurelion Soul's not getting targeted anymore.
Yeah, but the Urgot 2 is still alive.
Oh, the polymorph from the Lulu. That's so big, and that should wrap up this battle here.
Yeah, Khroen should have it. Urgot walking in, should be able to grab it. Yep, there it is. Oh, you hate to see it. And the Jhin 3 couldn't get the last shot off. That Jhin 3 was one shot away from finishing the Urgot, which would have turned it. But it was a close round, but Khroen is winning. But he's got a lot more HP to go through. Like, he still needs to win 2 rounds to win the game.
Yeah, so this locket, I wonder how much it changes. Putting a locket on a 3-star unit gives it its maximum effectiveness.
Right.
It does have scaling with the star level of your unit. So putting that on Xin Zhao is probably the play.
Has to be,
wow. Right? Oh my, are you serious? Khroen found a Bramble Vest? Oh, that's nasty. Bramble Vest to stop the crits from the Jhin.
Yep.
All right.
Cool. Take it. It's destiny, man. It's just it was meant to be, apparently.
I guess so.
Although this locket is big. I mean, it's big against everything except for getting eaten by Urgot, but it will help the rest of his front line who is not eaten by Urgot to stay alive a little bit longer and maybe give the Jhin a bit more time.
Yeah.
It's a pretty crazy 1v1 though.
The thing is, there's not much positioning for Deisik to really consider now that he has a locket. He pretty much has to hope that this Thresh and the Urgot does not really go the way of Khroen. And the Urgot doesn't pull the Xin Zhao. The longer Xin Zhao can survive, the higher chance he's going to win this battle.
Urgot got polymorph, but so did Xin Zhao. Urgot getting focused in the front. Oh, one of the Urgots goes down. How about the second Urgot?
Yeah, that Jhin ult was so big.
The Urgot targeted the Xin Zhao, but the Xin Zhao, survived because Urgot died. And so that's the end of the game. Deisik actually wins it. So the Urgots in the end were not able to chow down on their way to victory. But in the end, it was, I don't know where I was going with that. In the end, Khroen actually takes 2 second places. So he's in a great spot in the lobby. Yeah.
Yeah, so a really important win for Deisik as he plays 8th in game number 1. So now he's back in the running. Kiyoon all the way at the bottom. Looks like he has to put together really impressive performances. Otherwise, he is no longer eligible to make it to the top here. But, the story of Khroen's consistency is, the tale of the first 2 lobbies here.
For sure. And it's also interesting to see Unid and Kiyoon, 2 of the highest ranked ladder players in the lobby, down all the way at the bottom. So we'll see if they're able to bring it back. And I believe we're going to take a quick break in a moment. But first, we have to shout out juke.gg for sponsoring the tournament, of course. ! GSS in chat to take a look at all the player POVs and just go to the regular site, find a bunch of fun esports stuff to watch. They do a good job of aggregating it in a way where it's easy to find. So yeah, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, the next 2 games of the Giant Slayer series grand finale. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to Giant Slayer Series Grand Finals. Dan's giggling over there. I have no idea why, but maybe it's because of watching Urgot eat so many things. That makes me giggle. I don't know.
I'm
Like
having a good time, Doa. Having a good
Urgot
time.
and Thresh, BFFs forever, or at least until somebody's nerfed. I don't know. But it's an interesting couple games here. I think the biggest shock to me today so far that we've seen in our first two games, Dan, is that Kiyoon has really struggled to succeed in the first two games when he was easily the most successful and consistent player in a group play.
Yeah, it happens, right? Like
Yeah,
sometimes people just have a couple of downswings. Kiyoon played game number one, looks like he was contested. Didn't get to see much of game two because he died early, but that also
right.
could happen. But just like in the same vein, with three lobbies left, couple of wins, a couple of bad performances from players on top, and then we'll see Kiyoon right back in the mix. But for now, the story belongs to Khroen, another NA
Right.
player, and can whether any of the Europeans catch up. There's 5 Europeans out of the top 8, so they do have the majority. But it would be quite a statement for the regional rivalry if only 3 of the NA players are able to outplay some of those Euros.
Yeah, we'll see. I feel like the European region in general has produced so many good TFT players. Obviously, we have a bunch of good ones in North America as well, but just in terms of like consistency, players that are flexible, can play a lot of different things, not known as one tricks. Europe has produced a lot of those players right now, and a lot of them are in our lobby today. But North America does have some players that may have that like higher peak. We'll see, but Khroen is a player that we've been watching a long time. We know him pretty well, and we've kind of seen him sort of come up in tournaments over time and just consistently produce better and better results. So today may be his day, and if it is, I think he's one of the most deserving players out there for all the work he's put in and the improvement that he's shown.
Right. And what a way it would be to just watch Khroen cast Fight Night again. Like after he's
Yeah,
the season champion, and it's like already it's kind of daunting when one of the top players are just like doing commentary over you, and you're like like because Fight Night's about rising players, right? Like some
sure.
some really established pros, but also a lot of people who are up and coming in the scene. And then it's just funny because sometimes people always look and say, "Oh, casters love to criticize from their pulpit. Why don't they try it?" And it's like Khroen's like, "Okay, I guess I'll just win the season."
The total package. Yep.
That's right. So here we go. Little legends or
Oh,
littler legends. This is a
littler
very aggressive
legends.
galaxy, and we'll see how this one pans out here.
All right. What do you think about littler legends?
So for Little Legends, I make a rule of myself where I don't allow my composition to depend on any 5 cost unit. I
I think
think
that's
that
very
when
wise.
you
Yeah.
do that, you are putting yourself in a situation where you will ride or die based off your rules. And while that's a really exciting way to play, I pretty much just play a lot of very aggressive strategies. Also, I would say that on average, I hit 50 gold 1 time per game.
Mhm.
I very rarely stay at 50 gold on this lobby because when I played normals, like standard level strategies, right? Like level at 2-1 maybe, but definitely at 2-3. Level sometimes at 2-5, maybe go to 6 at 3-2, maybe hit 7 at 4-1. Like these like normal level cadences, I get bopped every single time because people are playing more aggressive. They're valuing their HP more. And you might think 15 HP, that doesn't sound like such a big difference, but it's
Oh,
monumental
it's
like in the
huge.
mid game, especially when
Yeah.
damage starts to ramp up at stage 4.
Right. When you start with 85, every HP is like that much more crucial. I think one
Right.
thing for sure is that you need to play the early game as strongly as possible. Like, I wonder, I'm really curious to see how Agon is going to approach this game in particular, because
Right.
his preferred style will just get you killed very quickly on this galaxy most of the time.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So I play best board as much as I can. I level like a lot of times when I'm leveling on Little or Legends, I have like less than 10 gold. And
Mhm.
maybe if I win, I can get back to 10. But I'm not afraid to do that now. And ever since I started doing more of that Pult strategy that he kind of like put on the map for this set,
Yeah.
I've my results on Little or Legends have picked up significantly.
Oh yeah, if you just
So
play super aggressive with your leveling and then just go for a really strong board, you can get to those like 30 HP, 40 HP leads sometimes and be in like the top 2 and have that, and then at
yeah.
least guarantee yourself like a top 4.
Yeah, and the hardest parts is I would say the hardest part about this galaxy is stage 3 because I think a
Hmm.
lot of people don't roll, and I think that there's times in this galaxy a lot where the situation calls for you to roll.
Yeah.
Um, and look at Deisik here. He's actually not going to even prioritize gold because he's prioritizing pairs, and that's what I'm talking about. If he
Yep.
sold his pairs like he sold his Jarvins and his Graves, he would have not. Yeah, he would have had an extra interest gold, but he wouldn't have these 2 stars. So he's going to go ahead and just play his strongest board possible, which I really like and appreciate out of Deisik here.
Yeah, you need to do that. And as like you mentioned, he went all the way down to a 0 gold. Gets the infiltrator buff. Okay. Yeah, the only item he can build is Infinity Edge, so why not go for that?
Yeah, yeah. Another
Yeah.
thing too, slam your items, generally
Hmm.
speaking. Really important to try to get use out of it. Agon doesn't care though. He's gonna throw all rules out the window.
What?
No level, no slammed items, no 2 stars.
I don't know,
True
man.
Agon experience.
I'm not surprised, but I'm concerned. Put that like mild concern gif
Wow.
over my face if you
Agon
cut back
TF
to me right
concern.
now. Yeah, a little bit. It's or the Leona concern as the sticker is now in League of Legends, or the emote rather. But I suppose by the same token, there is the thought process that says, all right, well, if I give up all this stuff early, sure, I'll drop really low, but then I'm going to come back and I'm going to hit people so hard in like round 4 that I'm going to just like skyrocket up there and knock a couple of other people out because the HP is lower. But we've seen him in the first 2 games drop to like sub 20 HP. If you take that HP difference and apply it to Little Legends, that's just being dead.
Yeah.
So he's got to do something a little bit more aggressive than he played in the first 2 games.
Totally. And you look at like the way Dasik's approaching this, he leveled to 5 at stage 2-2. Like, what is
Yeah.
that? You haven't seen that in a hot minute, but when you get a gold heavy drop, prioritize the levels on the Littler Legends, put pressure on the rest of the lobby. Everybody who lost in the previous round took a full loss down to 77. So you have an opportunity to drop them even below that.
Yep. Why not? I think that's pretty wise.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
will say that on Little Legends as well, I think a couple of comps fade out in relevance even more. I'm already on
Oh
the out.
no.
I'm already feeling outs on snipers right now. I don't think snipers is particularly very strong in this current meta. But like on Little Legends, I think it's an absolute no go because it just requires so many expensive units to get to 2 star. You need Jin and Teemo and Gnar
Mhm.
to even have like a reasonable baseline comp when your opponent can just play 3 cybernetics and flex a bunch of stuff and have
Right.
equal, if not greater, power.
And you can say things like, "Oh, well, what if I hit the Teemo early? Then isn't it appealing?" But on a galaxy like this, you're oftentimes not going to really be itemizing with that plan in mind. So if you do pivot to it, you're just going to have subpar items. So it is hard to make that work. I have tried it because I like playing snipers, and it doesn't work very well.
Yeah, and sad for Deisik. He leveled to 5 and lost to a
Yeah.
3 cybernetics core when he had multiple 2 stars. That's just a big bummer. But you know, he still is competitive in the lobby, and while he doesn't get the win streak immediately, he's still applying pressure to people like Khroen, and he's
Mhm.
still preserving his HP as best as he can. So this is still a move that I agree with, even if it didn't work out.
Yeah, I like putting in the Nico as well because she's a protector, obviously. You get that buff along with Jarvan, but her ult is actually really useful early on because it's a big area and it stuns by itself. So
Mhm.
that one stun can make a big difference in the early game. Wow, it's a Jace and that gets grabbed immediately by Unid. It's got the rod on it too, so that could be like an ionic spark or something.
Yeah, so another thing to consider, like part of what makes Galaxies interesting is that they should fundamentally be changing the way you play. And if you don't change Galaxy to the Galaxy, you're asking for variants to kind of bite you in the rear. Uh,
Right.
in Littler Legends, I also value the champions a lot more off the carousel because it just feels like you get fewer chances and looks at
Hmm.
stuff. And so even if it's like, oh, I don't want a death cap, I want like a Morello, I'll still like take that extra rod if it's on a good unit. And Jace with like a rod on it is generally like a really good thing, especially since he has Ionic Spark already. So I anticipate this transition here from You Need to try to give him a power spike with that Ionic Spark rod on Jace.
It's really hard to sell a 2-star, but at this point, you can get stronger. I do like the sorcerer kind of side of things because that buffs the Jace as well. Maybe drop the Infinity Edge on the Jace too. Jace 2 as an also, not 2-star.
Jace
But I was gonna put it
TOO.
on the. Oh, okay.
Okay,
He's gonna
that's
put
fine. I
on
mean,
the Poppy. Yeah,
it's not a more survivable unit. The Ionic
I
Spark,
suppose.
if you put Jace next to it, kind of functions similarly anyways. Like
Yeah,
the idea is that units surrounding it get reduced magic resistance. Just keep the Poppy and Jace next to each other as a nice 1-2.
it
Oh, that
makes
Jace didn't
sense.
slam
Oh,
though. That's brutal.
yeah, it makes sense. I always just look at the Ionic Spark and be like, if there's a rod in that item, I can put that on Jason. He can do even more damage.
Well, sick thing
But
is that
it
Poppy
is better for
still
Poppy.
might be able to bring this back.
Uh, maybe it's only a 1-star
Oh,
Malphite. Oh, that
wow.
was close.
Yeah.
Wow. All right,
So
Khrone's got to be happy about that.
one thing that people don't really is not really common knowledge that Malphite has one of the highest base attack damage in the entire game. So if he gets to overtime, he is quite the force. It's just that his attack speed and stuff like that is really poor.
Mhm.
So if you get to overtime with Malphite, that's usually not a position. I usually want to choose the Malphite in that position because he will slap
So what you're
really
saying
hard.
is we should go for multiple Zeke's attack speed Malphite 3 builds. Is
Oh
that's
yeah,
what
you
we should
should
be
turn
building
him.
towards, right? Let's
Yeah, toss him into the
yeah.
Master Yi Blade Master comp.
Give
Just
him
turn him into
RFC,
Blade Master.
RFC and a Blade Master spat.
Yeah,
He's getting in
exactly.
there with his shield.
That's right. That's right.
Oh,
I mean,
I
it works, right? Rebels and Blade
yeah,
Masters.
it does actually, but now I'm gonna have to try this. What are you
Oh
doing to me?
God. There you go.
I've got an extra account for this, don't worry. An extra one.
So you need stops the bleeding. It's one of those hard things again. Did you really want to snap the losing streak? At the same time, were you going to always lose to Agon? Probably not. Agon at 53 life before he gets to the end of
Yeah.
stage 2.
And as far as streaks go in Littler Legends, I think this is one of the galaxies where you really don't maybe need to be as concerned about streaks as in other ones because preserving HP is so important. So if I'm Unit, I'm probably okay with this.
I would be okay under the pretense that he doesn't lose for another few rounds. If he
Sure.
if he goes back to his losing ways at 3-1, this is an absolute disaster. I would definitely trade that extra like 5 to 10 health for 10 to 15 gold just to give us that big difference,
Yeah.
especially in this mid game, because the stage 3-2 roll down is pretty impactful, and if you're not rolling down 3-2, you better be consider rolling down at 3-5 a little bit so that way you can stabilize if you're not high rolling already.
Right. You have to find those units at some point. So you need going into that next round now. Is there room for a fourth sorcerer here? That's what I'm kind of wondering. And he doesn't really have the gold or the sorcerer for that matter, but maybe on
Yeah.
3-2 you can.
Yeah, he does have the Vayne in shop. Does have a Shen. Those are like pretty good cybernetics cores because you can play Vayne
Yeah.
and get the Chrono snipers with a Caitlyn, but he doesn't have like the rest of the champion shell. So it looks like he's just
Right.
gonna take. He's gonna not really power up and get stronger. And if he loses here, I would emphasize that stage 2-6 was really bad for him. And I'm sure Unid is very aware of what happens when you end up snapping your losing streak and go back to losing immediately.
Oh, yep, and that is a
Oh,
huge loss for Unid. Oh, that's brutal actually.
yeah, this might be a fast track to the 8th place here. We'll see.
And it might be all right. Well, takes a loss at the hands of Gunmay, who is currently the only player with still full HP in the lobby, which is pretty big for him. On Little Legends, being able to go into 3-2 with full HP is
Mm.
pretty massive.
Okay, finds
But
another
let's see what
Star Guardian.
yeah, I was gonna say, let's see what Unid adds in. I don't think Star Guardian's gonna help him a whole lot, although Soraka is kind of useful early. I think you'd really prefer to be force
Yeah.
Sork here.
It's so tempting to roll down here.
Yeah.
You only have 2 2-stars, and they're on less impactful units. You would actually want 2 stars of every other unit instead of these two.
I
But
think if you take another big loss, then you roll down, you've kind of taken a lot of HP loss for nothing. So I feel like you should. I agree. I think rolling down was maybe the play there, but we'll see. You need playing it a little bit greedy.
yeah, and I think maybe you need saying that he's going to go for the 3-5 roll down instead,
Mhm.
or at least the aggressive level to 7 and play a fourth sorcerer. This
Such a long time to
Soraka is
wait.
actually so clutch.
Yeah,
Jeez.
Soraka 1 gets a lot of healing. And with the Star Guardian buff, it's actually enough. Wow, I was worried. But DarkHydra had a little bit of an awkward board too, where he was running
Woo.
like double Alawi and stuff. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's big pickup. 4 Star Guardians, or sorry, 4
Yeah,
Sorcerer now with while maintaining the 3 Star Guardians.
that is
Uh,
huge.
very very significant upgrade here for Unit as he rotates out things like Blitzcrank.
Yeah. I've been wondering a little bit lately if I like Nautilus or Jace more. Because they do similar things. Jace does a lot of AoE damage, but Nautilus gets a knockup as well, and there's less windup on Nautilus's ultimate. So the damage is a little bit lower, but I'm not sure yet. But I'm wondering if maybe I like Nautilus one over Jace one right now as a Vanguard.
Yeah, I still think Jace is particularly good in this version of the comp because you do have the 4 Sorcerer buff, and Jace is like AoE, and
Yeah,
that is what you really need out of a sorcerer based transition here.
he is sort of
Um,
the like placeholder
yeah.
Riven, placeholder GP. But I just wonder. I wonder if the CC, I wonder if the knockup that Nautilus gets makes the slightly lower damage worth it. I haven't tested it enough, but I am wondering a little bit.
Oh,
That's a lot
oh.
of spatulas.
I mean, it's a half spatula carousel, one of them being
Yeah.
on Riven, so that does make it pretty interesting with what you can do.
Hmm. All right. Goes
Okay.
for the death cap instead. The rod on the Vi,
Yeah.
which would
Oh
make
my
sense. Yeah.
God. Agon has a Riven too. I mean, that's what happens when you roll down. Agon definitely did not save his gold.
You can look at Uni's face right now. He's just like, that's a face that's like, I'm in danger.
I mean, I wonder if Aegon actually even did roll or if he nattied that Riven. That would have
I
been
wonder.
really sick if he just happened to flop it 3 times.
That'd be amazing. We're gonna
Yeah,
move over to DarkHydra's view right now and
yeah,
check out what he's up to.
yeah.
He's
And kind
got
of like
that.
a emphasis of what we were talking about before. Like on Literal Legends, seems like DarkHydra just prioritized the bow on the Gnar.
Sure.
Obviously, you would want something else that's better on the Gnar. Like Gnar doesn't really generally use bow super well.
Mhm.
Um, and so, but getting that fourth brawler in, getting better front line, it's all huge so that he can stall long enough for to get this Kog'Maw online.
Well, here we go. Playing against Agon. We'll see how well he can do.
Yeah.
That Riven 2, though. No items on the Riven 2.
Yeah.
Might make a difference.
I mean, I think his items kind of say that he's going to play Bang Bros, and his bench shows that he has the Yasuo and the Zed and the Shen, and Riven 2 does go into those Blade Master compositions. It's just that I think on this galaxy in particular, it is even more risky than usual to play that comp. I think that the 6 Blade Master build is so like feast or famine that like
Yeah.
personally it's not for me. And I
It's
feel
really
like on Little
risky.
Legends it's even a bigger dice roll.
Yeah, especially on this galaxy. You're taking a lot of risk to try to go for it.
Yeah. I
This is
mean,
a still this it's a solid Brawler Blaster lineup though. And he's got the Giant Slayer on the Kog'Maw. It's only a Kog'Maw 1, but um,
yeah.
it's it seems like something where if he's just like one or two upgrades away from having a very strong board. One of those upgrades is probably the Riven, or not the Riven, the Jinx, but
Yeah.
he's doing okay.
The issue is that it's Kog'Maw 1.
Yeah.
The second issue is that Giant Slayer isn't super good against a Vanguard opening that when you have no Last Whisper.
Mm,
Um, because their health isn't high enough to make the 1750 threshold activate on Giant Slayer.
I
And
suppose.
then you don't even get to have that damage through the Vanguard armor because you don't have Last Whisper. And so you're purely like getting a 20% true damage buff, which is cool. But on a Kog'Maw 1, it's not really doing a lot. So that Kog'Maw 2 hit was actually really big for DarkHydra just now.
Yeah, this will be a good test of Kog'Maw just as a unit. I think a lot of people are not super excited about Kog'Maw right now as a carry unit.
Oh,
But when you
just
don't really
wait.
have another choice, yeah, he may get buffed eventually, but he's definitely
Yeah.
not Predator Poison Kog'Maw that we had in set two.
Yeah, on PB, oh my god, look at the
Oh,
quality of these items. That's ridiculous. He has
yeah,
the ability to play Infinity Edge and Ruden's Hurricane. He could just make an Infiltrator Claw. He could actually even turn
you can go demo
someone
too,
else into a Blade
or not
Master. There's a
demo.
lot of options here. So we'll see how his roll down does right here.
I had a set three flashback for a second where I was like, he could make demo spat with Ziggs, but I'm like, no, that's
Oh,
not this set anymore. And he finds the Fizz too. That is huge. He's got a Nard
and
too as well. All right,
Naruto,
this board is crazy now.
huge.
This board is insanely strong now.
I mean, those were big upgrades here for
Yeah.
DarkHydra. Now you just have to figure out how he wants to utilize his items. I like Ionic Spark on Gnar actually a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Fizz also makes sense too. I also like Hand of Justice because it
All
does
right.
work really well both with his spell and the lifesteal. But
Yeah, gonna win this round pretty easily against
yeah,
Lev. Okay, but what do you do with the rest of these items? Hand of Justice, I suppose, is okay.
I would
Um,
say that
hmm,
Giant Slayer is one of the items that I don't mind stacking, especially
I
on
was thinking
Jinx.
about that.
But I also think Rapid Fire Cannon is really good on Jinx as well. And then you can just go ahead and make Infinity Edge. That makes a lot of sense to me as well,
Yeah,
based off what the clues are giving.
you're left with sort of a spatula that's not doing anything, but you can always save it for like a force of nature maybe later. You don't need the
Yeah,
spatula to do anything right now.
yeah. I think that surprisingly, one of the best things to do if you play a Jinx-based composition is
Oh,
okay. So they're gonna go for the Hodge,
interesting.
but
I mean, it's a fizz too. Why not? I
oh
don't
yeah,
mind this at all. Yeah.
I think Hodge is great. 50%
Yeah.
of the time, you kill their back line every time. So I
Exactly.
like
Couldn't have said it better myself.
it.
Yeah. And now the Kog'Maw is doing some decent damage too, but he's
Yeah.
got so many other threats between the Gnar and
Oh
the
yeah.
Fizz. He's in a
Yeah.
great place in this lobby at the moment.
This is the March Dark Hydra. My prediction is that 3 people in this lobby won't even get to see their stage 4 drops. This is starting to ramp up in aggression a lot. Gunmay on a win
Yeah.
streak. Agon almost out.
Well, Gunmay has not lost yet. That's kind of the crazy thing is that he's still at 85 HP.
Oh geez, he might actually be able to even go to level 8. Is that even a thing on Little Legends?
Hey, if you're on a win streak like Gunmay is, maybe it is.
Yeah,
Are we
yeah.
going to see our first Little Legends perfect game? That'd be amazing.
The forbidden level 9.
Yeah. Level 9,
So
oh, I don't know.
another
That'd be
thing
something.
too, by the way, that you could do is in set 1, there was like this Blade Master Gunslinger build that you could do. You could totally
Mhm.
still play that on Jinx as an alternative to Runen's Hurricane. It's
Uh-oh.
not great, but like sometimes it's actually like super powerful, especially if you have red buff or Death Blade. In this case, Dark Hydra has neither. I don't know what he's gonna do with that spat. We'll see what ends up happening. I think he's hoping for another spat like you were saying. But
Yeah.
we'll see what he picks here.
Well, it's a offensive item carousel.
Yeah.
Tears, rods, and BF sword. So he's
Yeah.
got a couple different options here.
I would like to see another sword for Deathblade that does
Yeah.
feel the strongest overall. It's very expensive though. And it looks like
Goes
instead
for
he's
the
just gonna
rod.
prioritize going for the rod.
Yeah, he's just gonna keep making a fizz at carry.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. He could go for a battle cast spatula actually, which is no one ever goes for battle cast spatula, but
Yeah. Yeah.
if
I mean
maybe
sometimes
after
it's
the patch,
clutch.
PvE has some
Sometimes.
buffs for battle cast, so we'll see.
Yeah. Oh my god. And the
Huh.
rich get richer.
Yeah.
He has a rebel spat on top of full rebels. He has the double Ludens ready for the Aurelion Soul. The moment he finds Aurelion Soul 2, I imagine he's going to transfer those Ziggs items over. He has the GA, Ionic, and the Rebel spat ready for Gangplank. Gunmay looks like he's in perfect position. Not only is he win streaking, he has so much room to get even stronger. And that's so crazy to think about in Little Legends.
Yeah, he may actually do this perfectly. I know I'm cursing him by saying this, but he might end up with a perfect lobby. We'll see. He's going up against Blade Masters now, so Agon going for it, but Agon again on his
Yeah.
last health. We talked about Agon style in Little Legends, and that may just be what ends up happening is Agon style. If this Master
Oh.
Yi can't win, it's a lot of CC, but he's not losing much.
Yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
so it looks like he
it's a
stays alive for
Graves.
now. Yeah.
Graves can't really hold up to Master Yi
Wow.
too. So looks like Gunmay takes his first loss as he was power
That
leveling to 9.
that's how it happens. Oh, he finds another Aurelion Soul. That is
Okay.
so big. Can he find a third one?
Yeah, we were joking about going to level 8, but level 9 really is where Rebels starts to shine because you end up getting like legendaries, out the
Mhm.
wazoo, 15% chance. So, if he gets to level 9 successfully, has, 50, 60 life, he can even slow roll a little bit to find Gangplank before he full transitions.
He's currently 39 HP above Khroen, who is in second place. So this is one of the biggest leads I've ever seen in Littler Legends. Lev looks like he's going to go for cybernetics this game,
Mhm.
but
He has cybernetics, but he only has
yeah,
Vayne carry, so he is
yeah,
all in on defending until Vayne gets online, and that's not going to happen because Aurelion Soul. One thing that Aurelion Soul does really well that's underappreciated is that it infiltrates the back line, but in very subtle ways, and
sure.
then distracts like the back line. Like sometimes Vayne chases it, and it's like Vayne's losing DPS because she's spending time walking and trying to follow the Aurelion Soul. It's very very annoying as a cyber player.
Mm. Sound like you speak from experience.
Yes, very much so. I do like playing cybers a lot, but there are times when it feels like uh, the way the fights play out with Urgot and Aurelion Soul is just like, oh gosh,
Yeah.
why?
Hey, at least you don't have to worry about finding the Echo late game. You
True,
get
true.
it's nice if you find it, but you still have 6 cybers regardless
Yeah, I
in a lot of
think
cases.
Echo is becoming my favorite carry on Cyber, but for the reasons we were talking about, it doesn't seem like a
Hey,
reliable thing
speaking of,
to play in a late game here.
yeah. Adds a demolitionist with the rumble here. Might as well pick up the echo. We are at the point in TFT for this set where the 5 costs just feel like strong units in general to add on,
Mhm.
which I really like. He's gonna just add
Yeah.
the echo in. Okay.
Yeah, I like this. I like this
Yeah.
a lot. You get the infiltrator bonus. You get to put the double Ludens onto it. The demolitionist is clearly not going to happen. Red buff on Echo is like one of his best items.
Yep.
There's a little bit of debate of like whether or not you like red buff versus Morello's. Personally, I like red buff because not only does it give him a little bit more survivability, but it starts applying immediately because he's starting to auto attack, which is relevant for his infiltrator bonus, as opposed to
Right.
Morello, which is waiting for him to cast.
Going up against a mech this time and struggling a little
Oh,
bit. That is a strong mech.
yeah, Kiyoon on mech, just like the old
Yep.
times. Gunmay loses again. Okay, he's not infallible, and he's without his like 2-star legendaries I was waiting for, specifically the Gangplank. That Graves too is kind of just a heavy albatross around his neck.
Graves the albatross. We
Totally.
we've worked on a different game casting wise that has some pretty devastating albatross in it too.
Yeah, that's right. So, what are you gonna do? Like at this point, it almost feels like if Gunmay loses yet again, is he going to start considering rolling a little bit more? He's been kind of greedy with his gold, but he has the health to justify it. And now he's going up against Khroen, who has a very similar build, but he has this time the Jinx with pretty good offensive items.
Yeah, that's right. But Echo does a ton of damage to that Jinx. Oh no, the Jinx got kind of displaced a
Yeah.
little bit too. Not much HP, but it looks like it might be enough to win. No, the Aurelion Soul finishes it off. If the
Oh,
Aurelion
this
Soul,
double
oh, that
Ludens
A
is
Soul,
so
dude.
sick. So good.
Double Luden's Aurelion Soul is very strong.
All right.
Thresh. Is there a world where you put the Thresh in over the Blitzcrank? Do you think? He's thinking about it.
Yeah.
Over
She
the
doesn't
over
even
the
have
Ezreal. Yeah.
Jinx, so
Right,
Blaster isn't
right.
really important. This is a Jinxless composition, which, like we said, can work. Aurelion Soul is inheriting the entire Rebel Hexagon setup, but,
Mhm.
he's playing Aurelion Soul 1. So, I mean, Gunmay's still winning, which is great, and it looks like he's almost locked in top 4 guarantee. He pretty
You
much is
would
locked
think
in
so.
guaranteed.
Yeah, I don't know how you don't get top 4 if you're Gunmay at this point. You'd have to have,
Yeah.
like, Agon going, like, the craziest win streak ever. Lev D doing what he can with Cybers here. Man,
Yeah,
just watching that double Ludens with that back line, though.
Yeah, his Irelia is still kind of weak, so it's really non-factor. It's still
Yeah.
pretty much Vayne carry. Vayne chasing after the Aurelion Soul, but that's not going to be enough. And Lev is out.
Wow. All right, so Lev out at 5th. So we do have our top 4 locked in already. A lot of people dropping there.
Oh my god.
Khroen again, sitting in 2nd place. That
DoA.
consistency, man. Yeah.
3 out of the top 4 players are North American. Only one player from EU, and it's Gunmay.
Hmm. Well, what can we infer from this? Probably not a lot if we value our safety right now, but it is interesting. We'll give it
All I
that.
see, I'm just making observations, man. You
Yeah.
draw the conclusions.
Oh, I it's not my job to draw the conclusions. I'm also just observing. So he finds the infiltrator stat.
Ooh,
That could be
infiltrator.
big.
So there's some really interesting things that you can do with infiltrator claw in the blade master. Obviously, the first thing you think about is infiltrator Aurelia.
Yeah.
I also really like putting Yasuo as as an infiltrator because then he goes in and really messes with the back line because of his change, right? His
Right.
change from before the mid set expansion was that he now targets the unit farthest within his 3 hex range.
Mhm.
So he has some real good opportunities to mess with people.
Okay, it's gonna make the,
Oh,
Riven
okay.
Infiltrator, alright. And Riven getting in there and mixing
Sure.
it up is pretty strong as well. You get the shields rolling a little bit earlier, or she just dies right away. That one of those 2
Yeah.
things happens, and it looks like Khroen is just gonna knock Agon right out of this top 4.
Yeah. Jinx get the resets too quick. Agon out in fourth, but again, a really risky opening leads to a top four from Agon. Very impressive.
Yeah.
Kiyoon takes the damage. He's in third place, trying to find some way to get a shake with three, and looks like he's just a little bit short.
Yep.
Mm,
Doesn't have the gold to find it.
yeah.
We will see if Kiyoon lives another round, but Khroen and Gunmay both have extremely strong boards right now.
Yeah, I'm still a big believer that Rebels is probably the best comp in the game. I think Cybers are just easier to get online and therefore more consistent. But
Mhm.
look at this. He's going to jump to the
Hmm.
front with his Victor because he does have the Chalice who's going to pair things together. Let's see if it works out for him.
Alright, Kesby gets grabbed, but that's okay. Victor is the carry, but
Oh,
Victor gets eliminated almost immediately. The damage just was so big.
yeah, but the Jinx is also down
Mech.
too, which means that the mech is pretty much uncontested from like a large single target damage source. Everything is just going to
Oh boy.
slowly tickle it down.
It's huge. It's got the Titans Resolve, but it looks like it's gonna go down. I don't know. With the low health of the mech pilots, maybe Aurelion Sol's got enough to beat it?
Oh,
Jinx
the
and
reset
Aurelion
for the Jinx
Sol.
is so big.
Whew.
Kiyoon out in third place.
Wow. Yeah, 3rd place as Aegon drops in 4th. Crowan's still alive at 2nd. Gunmay still at 70 HP, which is
Wow.
crazy for a Littler Legends game. But Crowan on par actually to take yet another 2nd place.
Yeah,
Could be
Mr.
his 3rd, 2nd place
Consistency.
in a row. Yeah.
Khroen at least guaranteed yet another top two. Gunmay could get another first place, which
Yeah.
would put these two players as the front runners to finish season two on top.
Interesting. So what do you think about the frozen heart off of this cane for Crowan? There's a couple of
Oh,
different ways
that's
you could
so
use
sick.
this.
It's
Should be
so good on
important though.
Gnar.
Yeah.
Unbelievably good on Gnar. I think it's one of Gnar's best items, along with like GA and like Warmogs on Axe Sparks, etc.
Should be. All right.
So nasty.
Finds another Gnar. Not going to be a Gnar 3 game, as the next time Crowan loses, that'll just be the end of it.
The
But
alternative is to put it on Vi since she jumps the back line with her ability, but
that's what I was
yeah.
kind of wondering about. Yeah. I mean, I
Oh,
think traditionally you'd put on Vi, but Gnar just offers that jump as well.
I really like this. I like the double jinx setup. I like freeing up the Zephyr, and I really appreciate the fact that he
We
has
got the
a
Echo.
ZZ Rot portal as well, so that it might get pulled by the Urgot. Urgot gets the
Yep.
Aurelion Soul though.
Oh, look at this Aurelion Soul. Double Ludens with Morellos is going to be doing so much damage. And yeah, that's going to be that. Gunmay absolutely crushes the lobby. Khroen with another 2nd place, but Gunmay, like you just brought up, getting his 2nd first of the day. And that is how you win lobbies. It's going to be a tight race between Khroen and Gunmay, I think, going forward.
Yeah, I believe they're actually tied right now, unless I
We'll
might be
find out.
mistaken. So let's go ahead
They
and check
are.
it out.
Yeah.
But based
Wow.
off this, I believe Gunmay has the edge over Khroen because we also measure how many first places have you gotten the tiebreaker, and
Yep.
Gunmay clearly has that over Khroen at the moment.
Yep. That is correct. Wow, look at some of the other players. Deisik with 8th, 1st, 8th. So it's been a roller coaster for Deisik as well.
Well,
Kiyoon finally finding a good placement, so that gets him on the board, but he'll have to probably like win 2 in a row to really be competitive. So the pack starting to separate a little bit here.
yeah, totally. And Agon also quietly putting on a pretty consistent top four performance. He like averages fourth place, top four every single game.
Sure.
So he's been doing pretty well too, all things considering. And I wasn't sure about his playstyle on Little or Legends because I am scared to bleed so much HP, but he
Yeah.
almost made the complete comeback with Bang Bros nonetheless, right? It's like such a hard comp to preserve
I
HP on,
mean,
and he did such a good job of it.
top four is top four, right? So if you are top four, you are getting points. You're
Yeah.
moving up essentially. It might not be enough to win you the tournament, but it's going to certainly improve or maintain your standing. So we'll see if he can keep that up for two more games. As you can see, not four games today, 5 games. It is a grand finals lobby here on the Giant Slayer series, and we will crown a champion. 2 games away now.
That's right. So, after two more lobbies, that'll be it for the season. And, we
Yeah.
already see the window closing for certain players. Like for Kiyoon, for example, I don't think it's possible for him to win anymore unless Khroen and Gunmay play 7th, 8th both games and he gets
Mm,
like first all those games. It's going to be really, really, really tough to close that gap. Uh,
yeah.
but we will see people who kind of play for top three, top four, because right now it's the Gunmay and Khroen show.
Yeah, for sure. And the prizes are still a little bit better as you move up. So there's nothing wrong with gunning for that higher place, even if you can't quite take first. But it is a race between two great players. It is a race between regions right now, as a Khroen from North America versus Gunmay from EU. So the reputation of entire large chunks of the globe are at stake in this finals here.
Yep, that's right. So, we saw Rebels get the win there just now. Both
Mm,
players who are top two in the lobby have some sort of Rebel based composition. And, what was really interesting was Gunmay did it all with pretty much no jinx.
yeah,
I usually define Rebels based off like how effective your jinx is because you really need that buff and you really want to get jinx to reset. And then from there, you're pretty much just kind of snowballing a bunch of victories. And yet he didn't find jinx. I don't even know if he played Jinx in his final comp whatsoever. I think he just kind of put GP and
right.
prioritized Aurelion Soul.
I don't believe so, and that does open up a whole kind of new line of thinking as we do finally find a normal galaxy for these players to play in here. But there is a world where you can play Rebels and not rely on that Jinx. So that's going to be a game that I kind of want to go back and watch just to see how he played that from the very beginning.
Yeah, exactly. So that is going to lead us to our next galaxy. It's a normal galaxy.
Yeah,
Standard play. We'll see how this one ends up changing people's strategy, or maybe they just kind of play the same thing. Normal galaxy sometimes in itself feels like a special galaxy because of how often you're transported to all the different universes out there.
yeah. Seriously, it does kind of become. It's like, well, okay, how do I play this when I don't have to weigh some sort of like crazy benefit or hindrance that I have to deal with in some of the other galaxies? But I like it. I think everybody still likes normal galaxies at least. Finds a possible infinity edge to start off with the items, but you want to wait and see what else emerges before you slam anything.
That's right. So, taking a look at these initial boards here, what's really important in the normal galaxy pretty much is just to play straight up as best you can. We haven't really seen an overwhelming victory from some of these A tier comps,
Right.
but we've seen them place well, right? We're talking about Mech, we're talking about the Blade Masters. We saw like snipers make an appearance, but it's pretty much been the Rebel show today so far in the finals.
Yeah, and I think that's something a lot of people were expecting when the 3.5 patch came out. When you look at Rebels across the board, where there was the whole like, oh, Jinx is nerfed kind of thing, but she's still very strong. She utilizes a lot of different items very well. Aurelion Sol got a big buff. I think the fact that he kind of drains mana from people now is huge and is going to make him just so useful in general. And then you run into the Blade Masters as well, right? And all the different rebel things you can do there too. So it seems like across a lot of top comps right now, rebels are sort of a familiar theme. Even rebel mech.
Yep. Rebel in general seems to be really flexible to splash into a bunch of different compositions. We also saw like Mystics and Cassiopeia make their way into some top finishes as well.
Mm,
So overall, like a pretty good mix of tanky comps, damage based comps, and AP slash caster based compositions, which are doing pretty decently so far. The one composition that seems to kind of be phasing out more and more, like we talk about, are snipers, and
mm.
the one player that I think we did see going for it didn't really finish too well, except for that Jin 3. Jin
Right.
3 turns out is a pretty good unit.
Jin 3 is always good, but then you think to yourself, "Oh yeah, I only got Jin 3 because nobody else wants him." But it's okay. It's a top 4, you know? I think a sniper comp that hits can easily be top 4, and, you know, maybe if that team mode had the blue buff, things would have been a little bit different. Maybe a top 2 in that case. Focusing back to this game, we've got the 1 versus the 2 in this fight right now, Gunmay versus Khroen. These guys are currently tied on their standings, 1 and 2 in the last game. Gunmay able to get a win, keep his HP at 100. And yeah, just relying on that early strong chrono synergy. So he slammed the last whisper, and there's, you know, that's probably one of the most slammable items in the game right now because it's useful in a lot of comps and it's very important in the meta as well.
Yeah, and I think that, overall, you just pretty much just follow how the game is going. If you're like win streaking, definitely consider leveling stage
Mm,
1, stage 2, 1, stage 2. But yeah, like at this point, there's not really too much to consider for Gunmay outside of just playing like really stable stuff. With that
sure.
really last whisper, totally leaning towards the cybernetics. He already has that Leona 2 and a Vi. So I'm already anticipating Gunmay to be open to that, but he's also keeping some rebels in case he finds that like spike of a jinx, and he can
Right.
just kind of play some rebels from that point on.
Yep, probably see him pre-level
Woo!
before the carousel as well. Ooh, finds the Caitlyn too. That's going to be nice. And Caitlyn is a unit that does make it into a lot of cybernetics final comps right now, but it's also something that you can easily find another 1 star of and just sell that and swap the items when you need to later.
Yeah, it's not particularly important for you to play Caitlyn as like a carry of any kind in cybernetics.
No,
It's really important just to get the chrono and the sniper buff for
right.
Vayne. I like this level to 5 as well. Just very aggressive, playing for it. I also like that he didn't just automatically jam the cybernetic because he doesn't have any items on cybernetic. So cybernetic is a useless trade if you're not going to place items onto your champion.
Yep. That does happen sometimes. You're like, "Ooh, I could make a good cybernetic synergy," and then you realize that you can't actually move any items onto them.
Yeah.
Infinity Edge on a Zaya 2, and it's so funny because for a while I was thinking, all right, so Zaya 2 probably still fairly strong early. You know, you can probably just, you know, win streak a little bit with it, but I don't even know if you can do that now. I've gotten to the point where I just don't buy Zaya no matter what. Even if it looks like I should, I just don't buy her.
I buy her, but then I often sell her by the before the battle ends, just to
Yeah.
let Zaya know that she's in our thoughts and prayers for Zaya.
We remember, we haven't forgotten the shredder days.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those days are over. Carousel, a lot of defensive items on this one, belts and things like that.
Yep. It's pretty easy to just kind of pick any kind of offensive item here for
Yeah.
the Caitlyn. I do wonder if he wanted to utilize some of these components to maybe start itemizing for his cybernetics tree, but we'll go ahead and pick up in a little bit with Gunmay. For now, let's head over to Lev, who made some pretty big waves his last 2 weeks of competition. But so far in the first 3 lobbies, it seems like he's just kind of middle of the pack right now.
Yeah, we'll see if he can pick it up a bit. I didn't catch his synergies before he started doing some other scouting here. We'll find out right now. Oh, okay, so our Brawler Battle Cast Blaster, good early synergies, and he does have the red buff on the Kog'Maw. So, you know, not the strongest board, but something that's probably capable of winning a round or two.
Yeah, Lev played a lot of Jinx Rebel comps during his 2 weeks of domination. And it seems like, with him slamming that red buff immediately on Kog'Maw, kind of itemizing it as a priority carry, it seems like he's going to go back to his roots and, instead of getting fancy with it, play a bunch of other compositions, just kind of, use what works.
Yeah.
And Jinx comps are one of the best to play right now.
Yep, I think so. Ooh, he finds an early Wukong. It's so tempting because it's such a strong unit. You could get Chrono out of this. It might be worth it to ditch Brawler and pick up Chrono instead. Or you can just replace the Ziggs. Okay, yeah, all right, that's true. Didn't really lose anything, just gained, which is nice.
Yeah, it's 2-star Ziggs is just like a reasonable unit to put in to
Yeah,
add damage. It has okay stats. It obviously can't tank very much, but better than a bunch of one costs. I agree with this though. I think the Wukong is just important. That early CC might make the biggest difference, and you're still playing a protect the cog
Right.
type of style right now.
Yeah, exactly. Straight from Summoner's Rift. Trying to
Yeah,
protect the
exactly.
cog. Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
pretty much. Although it might not be able to protect him well enough this time. Ooh, Ziggs dies right before he gets his last ult. That might make the difference here for Lev.
Yeah, that red buff blaster effect is really big. Malphite, like we talked about, has pretty good damage, but he doesn't attack very quickly. It's overtime Malphite, which is scary. He's kind of like one of those athletes that are super good in like the fourth quarter or overtime, but
It's
up
funny you
until
mentioned
that
that.
point, you're like, is he ever worth putting on the court? Like Robert Ory for the Lakers back in the day.
Overtime Malphite was the name of one of my punk bands in high school, actually.
Oh, great.
It's coincidentally,
You
you
should
bring that
you
up.
should
Yeah.
sue Riot then.
That's right. I thought of that word way before League of Legends came out.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I'm waiting for my residuals. I'll settle for a skin. Let me design a skin.
There you go.
We'll
Sure.
call it even.
Yeah. Lev on a miniature win streak lost that second battle, but he's able to pick it up, and he is one of the lobby leaders in terms of health at the moment.
What's
Finds
he
a
find? He
Nikos,
goes in a
which
sword. Yeah.
okay.
So IE, or do you want to save that gloves for Last Whisper? Probably want to save it for Last Whisper, don't you? What do you think?
Yeah, Last Whisper is really important. However, it hasn't been a heavy Vanguard lobby. The only thing that's been worth considering to use Last Whisper against has been the Bramble Vest mix. Um,
Sure.
it doesn't seem. I mean, you do want to cut through the 250 armor if they're playing 2 Vanguard, but no one's really playing like 4 Vanguard except for that one lobby that Khroen, I believe, was able to use, or was it Gunmay? Gunmay that had the Vanguards with the Jin 3 sniper.
Yeah, trying to remember. Either way, I I think I saw one for Vanguard player in this lobby when Lev was cycling through, but he's gonna
Yeah.
slam the Infinity Edge anyway. It's gonna be a good item regardless, so it's a tough choice.
Yeah, I think it's because he's on a winning streak and he really wants to prioritize keep getting the wins. Again, Last Whisper, great. Kiyoon
Yeah,
kind of showing signs of playing Vanguard Mystics, but at the same time, take what you can get. And there's a lot to say about win streaking early to not have to need things like Last Whisper till late in the game, anyways.
right.
And by then, you might even be able to just pick it up straight up off of Carousel. So I think I agree with this. I agree with this.
Finds an early fizz, and he's
Oh
still
yeah.
holding on to some of the nocturnes.
I want
So
I want that fizz.
yeah, you're kind of thinking maybe there's a way I can put like infiltrator into this, and I can utilize Fizz because he's such a strong unit individually right now. Looks like he's gonna wait though. A little bit of indecision.
Not
Hmm.
picking up fizz hurts. I think Fluffy would
Yeah.
be rolling in his grave right now. He sees red buff and he sees like Infinity Edge, and he's like, no fizz being picked up. Fizz is just such a powerful unit, even at a one star
Yeah.
version of him.
Oh, Kog'Maw. I don't know if it's enough. Oh, not quite. All right, that was close.
Very
At least it
close.
wasn't a
Very
bad loss, but
Yeah,
he's got
kind of a bummer though, because he really wanted to hold on to these pairs and these infiltrators, and he
yeah.
really wanted to hit that 30 interest gold before it.
Well, so now why not sell the Nocturnes? If you didn't pick up the Fizz, you're probably not really going to use these infiltrators anyway, right? And you sold the Zed for gold.
Yeah, I think he just wants 2 stars. Right now, the big criticism we get against Lev's board is he has one singular 2 star unit.
Yeah.
So while the synergies look impressive, the itemization is solid. He actually just lacks real substance to his army long term, which is why he's like overly dependent on protecting Kog'Maw right now. Because Kog'Maw, if you give him enough time, will put out really big damage even as a 1 star unit. But
But if he dies
frontline's
immediately
not
to
going
Fizz,
to. Yeah, exactly. Fizz with the
and
GA.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, jeez.
Oh man. Yeah, that's and I love this actually. Pairing Fizz with sorcerers is becoming pretty popular because it kind of follows a similar principle to GP sorcerers in that you've got this big AoE ultimate in Fizz's case that has the crowd control built into it,
Mhm.
whereas you need the demo synergy for GP to get the crowd control. So um just following the long, proud tradition of putting big AoE ultimates with sorcerers.
Oh
Fizz fits
yeah.
in quite well.
Yeah, I like where Fizz is. He's gonna get a slight tap in the upcoming 10.13 balance
He
patch.
does need a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just a little too good. I agree with that. But it was fun to just kind of play
Yeah.
Fizz and comps, or even if you play mech, there's been like times where I see people like try to keep Fizz not into the mech because you can prioritize Annie and Rumble instead of him, which is always fun.
Right. Yeah. The way mech priority works is really interesting as far as once in a while giving yourself that fizz on his own in very kind of special circumstances. Lev at 84 HP though. And just again, like trying to build a strong, solid board. I don't think there's anything wrong with putting the sword on the Kog'Maw right now. It's still a Kog'Maw 1, but is there a situation are we getting to a moment, I feel like, and maybe we are, where Lev just does need to roll a little bit, or is he gonna start to take too many losses?
It's hard to say here. I think for Lev specifically, he's in this weird flux where like he is healthy, but he's not very strong.
Mhm.
So we'll see, how he chooses to go about it. Probably just gonna wait for that level 7. In the meantime, Khroen off to a very good cybernetic start. He's got Dilution 2 to hold the Vayne items. Just gotta wait till Vayne. He is looking like he's gonna take a pretty significant loss here to DarkHydra, who has, strength in numbers with the sorcerers, and he did level to 7. But DarkHydra's kind of all in, so to speak, right now. He spent almost all of his gold, which is a risky thing to do, but sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah, I mean, like I just mentioned, sometimes you get to a point where it's like, if I don't roll down right now, I'm just gonna lose way too much HP. Crone, though, I don't think he's any danger of losing a lot of HP for a while at least. Even
Yeah,
if he
well,
does lose, he should be able to lose okay. I think the big thing he's missing right now is like a vein, you know?
yeah, and even then, one star Vayne is great, but you do want to support her with proper itemization, and you do want to give her that sniper buff. And it doesn't look like
Mhm.
he's prepared for either. So in some ways, it's like better that he has Illusion too.
It's better than nothing for sure. Oh,
Yeah.
if I didn't make it to the back line there, a little bit awkward.
It
But
happens.
yeah, Lucian's just gonna get targeted here too. Yeah, and he runs into Unid that does have the vein with some decent items, and that's gonna be a little bit too much for him to handle. So Khroen being slightly contested here is
Yeah.
starting to struggle.
It's okay. I mean, he did a good job winning all the way until the stage 3 carousel, and he's like losing, but he's still preserving a good amount of HP. And that's kind of the advantage of cybernetics, which is cybers usually fights very competitively as long as they're not too far behind on the board.
Yeah,
And then they're able to like kill off a few units guaranteed every single time.
yeah, pretty much. And now we just get to infiltrators, so you can take time. He's got a little bit of a breather, got a chance to rework the items, and we'll see what he finds. I am curious to see how he's gonna transition though. There's a number of different directions he could go. He's been holding onto the Gnar for a little while, and that transition is probably gonna have to come sooner rather than later. So he stumbles across a couple of Shakos, able to get the Gnar in as well, which is pretty good because that gives him the brawler buff along with Vi,
Yeah.
gives him a bit stronger of a front line.
The Infinity Edge is huge. Now Lucian can actually carry in fights. Right now, Lucian's kind of been like a support cleanup, but
Right.
this roll down, I think is actually very smart because I think his army could have improved significantly if he just hit a couple of cybers. If he hit like a Vayne
Oh,
or
definitely. Yeah.
Or an Irelia, then he'd be very close to the 6 cyber synergy. And sometimes just playing straight up 6 cybers plus like 1 extra synergy is like more than good enough to carry you through stage 4,
Oh,
even if
yeah.
you don't 2-star them.
At that point in the game, the raw stats you get are going to be very, very useful. Oh, this Jinx. It was looking good for Crone for a moment there, but that is a very strong Jinx. 2 stars with the Last Whisper and the Infinity Edge on the other side.
Yeah, Gunmay with that 2-star Jinx looking real good so far at the
Yep.
beginning of stage 4. Still no
Second place.
cybers.
Not yet. And I guess, maybe you don't maybe you don't even really want to get stronger right now because you're so close to the carousel round. You can maybe, finagle yourself a better carousel position. And then after that, roll down and just try to build a strong board.
Yeah, it does seem like Khroen's still in preservation mode here, and it's not necessarily like he wants to lose, but I think he's okay with losing, as you're talking about.
Yeah, I think
Improve his
so.
positioning for his carousel. Wait for the level 8 roll down.
Yeah, you're so close to the carousel. Why
Yeah.
why not? Yeah.
He also does have this Thresh, which incidentally keeps him like very competitive because Thresh pulling a couple of units is very important. Not only just to kind of get high impact abilities off, like if he pulls in, say, another Vi, but just to get bodies in front of Lucian. And
Yeah.
so if you
That
look at how much Khroen won by, he won by like 1.5 units. And those are like how many units Thresh pulled basically. So it's very valuable to have that right at this moment.
in that particular case, the Thresh pulled in a Fiora 1 which doesn't necessarily seem like it's that strong, but she was able to distract the Mordekaiser with her ultimate long enough that the rest of the team just kind of melted. So yeah, that even just that single Fiora 1 made a big difference for Crone's round.
Yeah, exactly. Just get the bodies onto the board, and just try to get as much tempo as you can.
Let the bodies hit the board. Yep.
That's right. That's right. The new hit from Thresh,
That's
DM
right.
Thresh.
From Champion Pool. Yep. That's my
So
that's my new rock League of Legends band apparently.
got it. Yeah, DoA just starts bands all the time.
I do. Hundreds at this point. Well, finally
uh,
things started to look up a little bit for Crowan over these last couple
yeah,
rounds.
this is a really good sign because he's beating the one-star Jinx compositions, which means that he is firmly. I mean, his standing already has indicated it, but he is firmly in the middle of the pack. He's not going to beat those who are like, who rolled really well in the early game and found like Jinx 2 or an early Nikos, but he's not like so weak that he has to like desperately roll. So
Right.
his restraint on not leveling has been really good for him, and now he's in a pretty good position with reasonable carousel priority and a lot of flexibility with how he wants to go about for the rest of stage 4 here.
Yeah, we'll see what he wants to pick up. Sees the bow go to Kiyoon. There's some good items left. And actually there's that echo with the gloves.
Yeah,
You
Echo's
really want to
gloves,
grab that, right? Because now he can go
pretty
for
heavy.
6 cybers, can't he?
Yeah, he doesn't need Aurelia anymore, so he has the Fiora on the bench. He's still missing Vayne or Aurelia, so
Ah, you're right. You're
he
right.
would require one more cyber. But the option is that he can roll for it, right? Like he can level to 8.
Yeah.
Probably doesn't want to level. Actually, he's on the off cadence because I think he played an early bard. But yeah, we'll see how he ends up going about this.
Right. You want to get the echo in there anyway. We're going to take a look at what Agon is up to for now instead,
Oh, a
as
sorcerer
Khroen
build.
decides. Yeah. All right. Aegon's been one of the players too that has not been afraid to play sorcerer builds from time to time, and I think there are definitely some strong. Obviously, the strongest sorcerer build is a 6 orc with the Riven carry into GP, which is exactly what we see Aegon doing. Um, but there, even then, it doesn't feel like a top tier build yet. Unless you hit that GP, then it feels strong. And he's certainly going to go on some win streaks for now.
Yep. Does seem like Aegon is trying to preserve he basically at one life at this point. Like, even if
Right.
he's able to survive the next 2 rounds and not lose a single time, when you start to get to stage 5, you're like basically at one hit. Finds a Victor too, which is huge, but he wants to itemize a Victor as well. It's not just purely about upgrades at this point. Sorcerers are fairly item dependent, and he is due for a lot because right now it looks like he has 7 total components, and he's probably gonna get like oh no, sorry, he has a ionic spark on Fizz, so
Yeah.
he's still gonna at least get a few more components here on the Raptors.
What kind of shocks me is that he's already got a Lulu too, and the Soraka too, for that matter. So he's got a really strong Mystic package with this too, which is why he's not, going up to that 6 sorcerer right away. Big heal
Yeah,
from Soraka gets herself out of trouble. That Lulu too, as we mentioned many times before, is just a band aid for anything that's wrong with your comp,
yeah.
and I just like it in general.
This is the Agon way. Go down to a
Yep.
dozen hit points and then just top 4. I don't know how he does it. I feel like,
It
anybody that
doesn't
tries to
seem
emulate the
sustainable.
strategy, yeah, anybody that
Yeah.
emulates the strategy, it feels like you're incurring way too much risk, but it seems like he's a master at stabilizing. The question is it enough because everybody else is also getting online?
Right. He needs to keep winning now, and we did see it kinda come back to bite him in game number 1, I believe it was, where he did put together a really strong comp, but he was down to 19 HP, and so it didn't take very much to knock him out. But he is an interesting player in that he plays a style that, he plays it really, really well, but it's a style that if most other people tried to emulate him, they would just do worse. So
Oh,
it's oh, and he does find the
what?
Bramble Vest too, or a GA. Good options with the items.
Yeah, or a Giant Slayer. I think Giant
Yeah,
Slayer low key is like one of the best items on Victor. I've played a lot with that item, and I'm almost willing to say that that's a core item on Victor.
really. I think
Yeah,
it's good. I think Victor can use 80 items, and I think Giant Slayer is good in any comp, as long as the person gets to hit a lot with it. But core, wow, that's a
I would
strong
say
statement.
yeah, I would say some kind of mana based item like a Shojin or a blue buff and
Yeah,
Giant Slayer are like my two items I would want to put on Victor. Obviously, like Morello would be great too, or some kind of death caps thing, but
right.
we shall see. It looks like Aegon's instead going to prioritize tankiness because he believes he has enough damage, and he does have the
I would
Lulu with the
agree.
GA now, kind of being an off tank.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's correctly identified that he does have a lot of damage between that, the Riven and the Fizz, and just making sure that Lulu gets 1, maybe even 2 ults each fight should guarantee him a lot of wins. Takes a big chunk out of DarkHydra there.
Oh yeah, big chunk. And now Aegon's one of the few players that's on a win streak this game, and he is threatening everybody above him to move up. Kiyoon and Dark Hydra kind of moving down the standings right now.
I don't get it. He's 1 round from death so many times, but he's able to come back and hit top 4 a lot anyway.
Oh yeah,
I don't get
and
it. I
I
don't
think this kind
approve
of
of it,
play style
but yeah.
has earned
Yeah.
a lot of respect from his peers. A lot of top players will say Aegon's like one of the best players there just because his play style is so flexible and he's able to pull himself out of any situation.
He
But
has
it's
an
also
extreme level of knowledge of his limits.
yeah, and I would say that it's also kind of like a strategy that can easily make him look bad in the eyes of fans if he's like, "Well, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna lose streak and then die."
Lose streaking to death is, not gonna gain you a lot of
Oh,
cred
no.
for sure. Oh, and speaking of how about win streaking to die? Aegon! Alive
This
with
this is
1
too much.
HP.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, that's my 3rd heart attack of the day. Thanks, Aegon.
Yeah.
All right. Well, he's still got a great comp, but now you're running to the point where you mentioned earlier a lot of other comps are coming online. And that is the time when this comp needs to have the power of 6 sorcerers. And I think that is going to maybe be his Achilles heel here. While the Soraka and the Lulu 2 are incredibly strong, he just doesn't have the burst probably to keep
Yeah.
up with some of the other comps.
And I think that was my big problem is that he's playing a sorcerer comp with minimal burst, right?
Yeah.
Like his Riven is good and she'll live what feels like forever. At least she'll be like one of the last people to die. His Victor just doesn't seem that impactful. That being said, Fizz being as popular as he is does make Victor feel like more of a liability. And we'll see.
Yep.
Oh, that the Fizz ults on both sides were not that good. And now Riven has to clean up 4, 5 units now.
Well, I mean, Aegon lost his
Woo.
Fizz to the or lost his Victor to the Fizz ult from Deisik, but it looks like he's going to stay alive, just barely.
Mm.
That was a close call, but he's got perfect items on Riven right now, or what a lot of people would call perfect items on Riven, and that should keep him alive for one more round at least.
Yeah, another GA,
Ooh,
trap claw opportunity, which is really nice as well. There's a lot of like big AoE spreads that people like will try to immediately use it on, and you can just go ahead and trap claw,
I like the
stop
trap
that.
claw on Victor. Maybe we'll see what he decides to put it on, but either way, it'll be useful in terms of giving his team just a bit more time.
Yeah, I think that currently with like the Fizz meta, Trap Claw seems even more important to negate that ability to go off. Like before, Trap
Yeah,
Claw was like used as a way to stop big AoE spread, like Misfortune. Sometimes you stun the KO. Um, I do wonder if he's gonna put it on Victor or if he's gonna put it on another unit instead. Like, you could actually convince me that it's correct to put it on Fizz so that he has maximum uptime.
Well,
But
that's
then
the
you
other
also
choice, right? Yeah, is if you're not going to put it on one of your carries that you want to live, you're going to put it on one of your infiltrators because you want them to draw attention.
yeah, the other option would be Lulu because she is kind of frontlining, and you would want her to also be like stunned, and also people that attack her get stunned. You also could do the really nifty thing of just waiting to see who is
Yeah,
likely to get stunned and then place it seconds before they do it. So in this case, Cass gets stunned. She tries to activate it, and now that gives enough time for Lulu to cast her polymorph. And is that enough time for Victor to do his damage with Riven?
maybe Riven is just soloing the Malphite right now, so she's not getting
Oh.
a lot out of that AOE, but it looks like it's plenty. Kiyoon
Wow,
may
Q
be
down
going out
8th
here.
place.
Wow, yeah, he's done. And Agon at 1 HP, he's still around. He's climbing. DarkHydra survived his round as well. So it's a pretty tight race now between third all the way down to seventh. Deisik only at 19 HP himself.
Yeah, that trap claw was really clutch, and also, leveling to get that infiltrator bonus is totally fine here. Agon has successfully gotten to level 9, and now he's pretty much just in maintenance mode while he tries to find his way to optimize his positioning. Lulu in the corner.
Huh.
Interesting.
All right. I mean, Trap Claw will mean he won't get grabbed, I guess. And he's going to walk up on this mech.
Yeah, he was trying to
Hmm.
intercept some of the other people who jumped to the back line, but it didn't end up working out. However, this Riven can go in onto the mech, and if there's one unit that the mech struggles with, it is Riven. It feels very similar to a Poppy situation from when you built Candyland, where the mech can't kill Riven in time, and Riven just slowly chips away the mech
Right.
and just absolutely crushes the pilots when they pop out.
You get that situation where all the mech is doing is basically just taking off her shield, and then she just reapplies it immediately.
Wow.
And
The
that's exactly what happened.
harbinger of death. Aegon, every person he faces, he's going to eliminate. And if he keeps winning, actually,
Hey,
outside of you need, he will eliminate another player. Are we going to see yet another patented Aegon comeback?
Aegon is basically oh dude, what's a house that has a squid for the sigil in Game of Thrones with like what is dead can never die?
The
Greyjoy, thank you.
Greyjoys.
Yes, our
Theon
producer have my back.
Greyjoy.
Yeah, he's basically like by going down to 1 HP, he has done the ritual, right? He has died and come back harder and stronger.
Yes.
But will he be strong enough?
I mean, he looks good to me right now.
Hmm. He's on the edge.
Yeah. So how can you improve your board? Definitely playing the Xerath over the Zoe looks better. Oh, actually, he's just going to
Uh,
prioritize playing Echo. He's going to drop the Janna. I thought the Janna was fairly important because it might actually
hmm.
work in your favor. The tornadoes would be able to cast onto your opponents and also maybe buff the Fizz. But it looks like Aegon's just kind of all in on the Infiltrator plan. And he's going up against a Vayne 3 from You Need, who is looking unstoppable. Fizz didn't even
Oh
cast.
no!
Aegon is super dead.
Oh yeah, no kidding. Fizz just got insta-gibbed by that Vayne 3, and when there's not a lot of people going cyber in the lobby, finding that Vayne 3 is definitely possible.
Oh
And
god.
he's now just like the Greyjoys in Game of Thrones. He's gone. It's
He died just a little bit too quick. He would have snuck into the top four. Khroen lands in the top four, but you know who's still in the lobby? Gunmay. So
yep.
final three players are all European players, so finally getting their revenge. And now Gunmay is basically going to try to extend his lead over Khroen here.
It was such a tight race between Khroen and Gunmay, but this is gonna create a little bit of space for sure, depending on how Gunmay can finish. If he finishes in third, it's still tight, but if he can get up to a second, get up to maybe even a first, it'll be different. We're gonna be
Uh,
on board with Deisik though, for now.
yeah. Well, huge for
Interesting comp.
Gunmay. Huge for
Yeah.
Gunmay because I don't think Day6's army looks very strong into this.
No.
I feel like the Vayne is just too hard to stop.
Yeah, I mean, she's
Oh, the
got
Blitzcrank pull! It's so big. Oh,
what?
oh my
Did
God!
that just
Almost pulled it
happen?
out.
That was so close. Man. All right. So 7 HP now for Deisik. You need it's 71 HP. So he has got all the time in the world. to win this game.
It does look like it's Union's game to lose. It's pretty much who wants to get second place, and I wouldn't even be surprised if Union won the lobby after this round.
Yep,
Um,
certainly possible.
if he is Ghost ends up playing somebody, I do think that it will come down to a Gunmay versus a Deisik showdown, and it is
Yep,
for
sure
second
is.
place here, Doa.
All right, who's gonna get at least second, and probably just second? Big Gnar ultimate actually. Oh, the Fizz ult. A couple people were knocked out of the Fizz ult by the Gnar, so slight anti synergy there, but still looking okay for Deisik with that Jinx in the back line for Gunmay, able to put enough damage together that
Oh, the GA so
oh,
big.
oh,
Oh,
all right, that was close, but Gunmay pulls it out, and he will grab second. That's gonna push him even farther into first place over Khroen. And now Unid has a ton of time to take this last 3 HP off of Gunmay. And whoever's Ghost Unid played, he beat him. So if it was Gunmay's Ghost, this may end up being a very fast 1v1.
yeah, Gunmay's chances to beat a Vayne 3 purely depend on whether or not he can disable Vayne 3 or chew through the front line fast enough.
Right.
With 6 Cybers, though, it's hard because they gain so much HP.
Yeah.
And there wasn't any defensive item taken. I'm a little bit surprised by that. I think that I would have maybe considered taking like ZZ Rot Portal. I think that was available on it just to give Vayne a little bit more stall time. Also,
Okay.
it takes out the like ZZ Rot Portal also sometimes messes up Urgot, where he starts to target the wrong things. So
Sure.
I like that a lot, but it looks like he's instead prioritizing for when he inevitably gets the Echo,
This Vayne
because he
3
has that
is
Lucian
just
stacked.
this Vayne 3 is just murdering everybody. It's not
Yeah,
even
it
close.
doesn't matter. It really doesn't
And you
matter.
need
So good.
Yeah, you need crushes game number 4, gonna get a win for himself in the finals here, which is big. That's cool because again, he is a player that came in to replace Khroen as a Khroen had to bow out due to just kind of focusing on other things in his life than TFT right now. But giving a great player like you need time to shine in the lobby and getting a first place certainly helps with that.
Certainly. So with that, the stage is set for our final lobby. Gunmay currently 2 points ahead of Khroen, who
Mhm.
is very far ahead of third and fourth place. Agon with that sixth place has kind of fallen out of that third place guarantee as Lev and Deisik are hot on their tails. Uni gets a very big win, potentially can catapult into that top 3. But for Kiyoon and DarkHydra, looks like today was just not their day.
Yeah, apparently not. Little bit disappointing with all the hype. A lot of players coming in and saying that Kiyoon and DarkHydra specifically were the players that they were worried about facing today. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's sometimes it's just not your time, and that seems to be how it is for DarkHydra and Kiyoon. But a tight race for number 1 yet, and it's going to come down to the last game. I love it.
Yeah, it comes down to the last game. Gunmay in a really good spot, and this would put his winning streak. It's just I think he's just put on quite an impressive winning streak since the end of set 3, going into set
Yeah.
3.5. And overall, I think Gunmay was kind of talking about how he wanted to be recognized as one of the top players in Europe. I think a lot of
Mhm.
people were mentioning other players for several months now, and people talk about Gunmay being like a pretty good player. But is he like top of the top? And I think after a performance like this, you have to consider him to be one of the top players right now from Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. When I talked to him a few weeks ago on my show, he was saying that one of the things he wanted to be known for is to be a good player, but also be known as a player that can play a lot of different things. He can play everything, and we already knew he was creative. Now we know he's creative and he can play all the standard stuff too. It's very cool to see. But can he close it out? We're gonna find out after this quick break. Don't go anywhere, guys. The final game of Giant Slayer Series Season 2 coming at you right after this. Welcome back to the Giant Slayer Series Grand Finals. DoA and Frodan with you, and we have one last game to decide who's going to take it. And it's pretty much, as far as first place goes, pretty much a duel between Gunmay and Khroen. So North America versus EU, two great players. Like whoever ends up winning this, it is going to be so deserved. They're both really awesome players, and it's great to see them on top of the finals lobby.
Yeah, and we've seen several play styles clash in this lobby. You have people who prioritize win streaking, jamming things, slamming items, trying to get immediately that snowball of win streaking. You see players like Agon trying to lose streak intentionally, a nightmare for anybody who's trying to piece together a lose streak spontaneously because Agon's going to claim that. And then you have some players who are sticking to like one or two compositions, and you have players who are playing very open and flexibly. That's what you want to see in this top eight. Also, the narrative of EU versus NA is kind of winding down here as Gunmay looks like the clear favorite at number one. Can Khroen catch him and perhaps redeem NA? And obviously get the win for not only himself but also like everything they represent, whether it's Cloud9,
Right.
whether it's North America, whether it's Black creators. You gotta love it. Crone's definitely playing on fire as he has never placed below top four and got second 3 times in a row.
Yeah, and we've been saying it over and over again. Like he is due for like a top finish in a tournament because he's been so consistently hitting those top eight lobbies that it was only a matter of time before we saw this. And as you look at the scores, you can see it really is just a duel between Gunmay and Khroen here for first place. Even if Agon or Lev gets first, that's only going to take them to 30. Khroen's going to be ahead of that, even with an eighth place in the final game. So it all comes down to Gunmay versus Khroen, and then everybody else basically.
Right. It's almost like one of those things where, like, if Gunmay changed his entire strategy just to make Crone's life difficult and they got seventh and eighth place together, like Gunmay getting eighth and Cronen getting seventh, then Gunmay would win the tournament. No one else
It's a
can
fair
catch them
point.
two.
It's a fair
So
point. It's one of the
it's
many
def-
things at TFT to think about.
it's certainly an interesting idea. I think that would probably leave a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, especially
Well,
people who are cheering for Cronen. But
Gunmay is
it
not
is
the
like a
type of player
viable
to do that,
strategy.
though. I agree, but I don't see Gunmay as the type of player to employ that kind of strategy as well. I just knowing him, I would imagine he would want to like win it straight up with just playing as well as he can. You know.
Yeah, that's right. So a very important lobby coming up here because of that Gunmay Cronen dynamic. There's also players who are in third and fourth, the Lev and Akon dynamic. Who's going to be able to claim that bronze third place? Because we know that
Mm.
Cronen and Gunmay are guaranteed 1-2. And then like who can like kind of rob that, right? Like
Yeah.
what has to happen for players to move up like Deisik and DarkHydra even.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of questions that are about to be answered here coming into our final lobby.
That's right. And it's a super dense galaxy to make things even more spicy for our final game of Giant Slayer Series Season 2. On board with Gunmay as he looks around, decides what to grab, doesn't end up finding much. He went for a bunch of stuff and barely didn't get it. Ended up with a tier. Okay. Interesting start for Gunmay.
Yeah, tier does make me immediately think like, how can I use a blue buff in any capacity?
Right.
Largely because that is the best item to slam. I think blue buff is probably like a really underappreciated first item that you can get, first complete item that you can get to
It
help
can be
you
very
win
good.
streak
Yeah.
because there's several good holders of it early.
Right. You can use it on a TF, I suppose. Ari is another good carry for that early on. The I think the only issue you run into is that if you aren't putting it onto a Cassiopeia, what is going to be the best use you're going to get out of that? Obviously, Timo really makes great use of the blue buff, but then you're kind of dedicated to playing Astro Snipers, which we know is not the strongest comp in the meta right now. So I am curious to see how he's going to use this tier. Gets a little bit more of a universally quote unquote good core component with the bow.
Yeah, again, there's a lot of flexibility with how you choose to outfit your lineup. But the most important thing is, what are the units Gunmay are prioritizing early? And it seems like
Mhm.
brawlers are really important right now. I would say Nocturne, Malphite, and Alawi are a really powerful core 3 units that you can put into a lot of early openings.
Yep, I would agree. Oh, he finds a little bit extra gold, and that's going to allow him just to play a little bit wider here as the game gets going. It's always
Two
nice. Always nice to have
Malphites.
that chance to hit those 2 stars, which he does find the Malphite.
Yeah, finds a Nocturne in the shop and another Poppy, a second Poppy. Some
Hmm.
really high quality stuff. And also, that Fiora in the shop opens up a possibility of potentially falling into a cybernetics flop as well. So
Right.
pretty solid options here for Gunmay. Doesn't have any of those units that are considered to be noticeably weaker than the other.
Pretty much.
Wow.
He does buy it. Oh, and he does get another tier. Interesting.
Holy cow. All right.
Huh.
Okay.
All right. The thing is when you play cybernetics, tier just basically becomes a way to unlock a bunch of extra stats too sometimes. And they can always become like a frozen heart later if you want to. Ooh,
What?
Poppy too. And an Ari? Okay. Now this is where I get a little bit uncomfortable if it's my game because I'm like, I have so many choices. But Gunmay does not need that much time to deliberate over it. Immediately puts the Poppy in. He's going to go with the double Sork look. He could spend this gold to level here, and he will.
Yeah, he absolutely will. It's super crucial that you're able to get that win streak going. I'm kind of surprised that he's not
Hmm.
prioritizing the Poppy being put in, considering it's a
Uh,
two-star unit, but I
yeah, I
guess he
was about
values
to
the
say,
HP. Yeah.
what, it's 300 HP for the Brawler buff. Um, Poppy has, I would say, Poppy 2 has at least that much more than an Alawi 1, and the ultimate's better as far as sustain goes. So it's a good debate. I wonder if a Poppy 1 or a Poppy 2 is better than a Alawi 1 with the Brawler synergy. Doesn't matter because he wins around anyway, but that's an interesting question. I'm not 100% sure which one's better.
Yeah, the brawler buff is very significant, and so is the sorcerers. So I think that I am okay with not playing the Poppy only because that 500 HP that you get or so is massive, right? It helps you
Yeah.
basically stall out, and what Poppy's trying to do is tank anyways. So having that brawler dynamic is really core.
Well,
The
the
second thing is that if he finds another Star Guardian sorcerer, maybe he just ends up playing that and then just playing a
mhm.
Malphite 2 along with Star Guardians.
I suppose the other thing to consider as well is that Ilaoi is going to make better use of the sorcerer buff than Poppy is, as far as getting just a little bit more damage done over a larger area. Although oftentimes Alawi only hits one person. Anyway, if she does hit two, you're going to gain more benefit out of that. But he is crushing rounds. We talked about Ari being such a strong blue buff holder early, and definitely showing that right now.
Yeah, I would say that this kind of opening for sorcerers is, one of the better ones that you could pretty much ask for. I
Mm,
personally like really playing Star Guardians with it early because it just makes the blue buff very, very, very strong.
yeah.
And I wouldn't even hate Gunmay once again leveling here. I actually think it's correct to like sell Zaya double level or yeah, double EXP buy and go for the poppy.
I mean, you're already on a win streak. Why not? Gains you a clear strength boost. Maybe you want to go for 10 gold instead.
Yeah,
Nope,
the
he's gonna
the
level.
10 gold looks appetizing, right? Like I think most players would probably go for that. Or they would do the other thing, which is like see how the battle's going. If they
Yeah.
win, they pre-level. If they lose, they sell out and like try to hit 10 gold.
Mhm.
But I like this aggressive play. I think these aggressive plays are like what's really important right now in the metagame that top players are doing. But if when I see like players who are always asking for advice, they're like at platinum, diamond, trying to hit that next tier. I do think that's one of the more common mistakes that you do end up seeing.
Yeah. I think prioritizing HP as well is definitely on Gunmay's mind more than ever because he knows all he needs to do is finish just like one space ahead of Khroen, to guarantee himself the win. So anything he can do to keep himself just a tiny bit even ahead of Khroen is going to help him secure the victory.
Yeah, that's another good point, right? Like, I don't
Yep.
think necessarily like it's a HP preservation move, but it will be preserving HP.
That has that
Um,
effect, yeah.
yeah, yeah. You're really obviously trying to just get the win streak going, so that way you can be really good position for Krugs. The only thing is that Gunmay, of course, is also evaluating the relative strength of other people who are undefeated, because those are the
Mhm.
main competition that you're scouting. And there's two other players at this point, which is a little bit intimidating. That there's two other players who are undefeated, and they're also going to hit level 5.
Right. Well, finds a Jace, which is a nice addition because it gives you Vanguard, and Jace also just simply is a good damage dealer. A lot of early comps
Hmm.
may sell down a bit here.
Yeah,
Hmm.
now is a time where I think it is kind of crucial to hit 10 gold because you do need to focus eventually on your economy. I know investing into your win
Yeah.
streak is great, but the first interest breakpoint is very
Oh,
significant to
Agon.
ramping up your gold.
Oh, Agon.
Wow,
He's
nice high roll here for Gunmay to match up against Agon.
you know, Agon will never be anyone aside from Agon, and I respect that, you know? We'll see. He's put together a pretty consistent day. He can still top 4 in this tournament. He's currently tied for 4th right now, and
Yeah,
that would be impressive. His style,
shockingly,
so
it,
fragile, but it works.
shockingly, he's not even the lowest HP. You need to somehow racing him to the bottom there to keep that loose streak. I wonder
Wow.
if you need an Agon will clash. It'll kind of be like one of the top 3 players who are still undefeated. 3 players on fire here, Doa.
That's a lot for this point in the game. Usually you have maybe 1, maybe 2, but to have 3 players still at 100 HP at 2.6 is pretty crazy,
Right.
and that might lead to kind of some very lopsided lobby or a very lopsided lobby as the game goes on.
Yeah, and quite honestly, Lev doesn't look that strong without this Nocturne. So he's going to go ahead and level. But let's see if it ends up being enough here because he is spread out and dependent on that vein.
Right. It's a strong vein. I mean, he's got the Infinity Edge. He's got a little bit more crit with the gloves as well as a bit of dodge. Obviously, that 2-star Nocturne doing a good job of occupying some of the carries, but the Lucian is so scary on the other side.
Oh, the
The
Vayne
vein,
dodges the Vi ult. That's an Uzi Vayne. When Vayne does that, it's one of the most satisfying feelings. I have a clip of
for
that
sure.
actually, where it was like some sick dodges. But yeah, it looks like Lev gets crushed here, and so Deisik and will be the only player undefeated. Gunmay looks like he took the loss too.
Yep, that's right. So from 3 just to 1, and that's more normal for this time in the game. Still pretty surprising to even have one person on the win streak because it's just a lot of games in a row to come out on top of.
Right, right.
Yep.
Kind of just emphasizing the strength of cybernetics early, even if you don't
Yeah.
really have like a 2-star carry. Just putting the items, just giving them that raw stats, and you're able to overwhelm your opponents.
Right, because it makes him basically like a 1.75-star unit, if you will, where it bumps him, not quite up to the next star tier, but like a significant degree, you know?
What is he? What's
Wow.
happening? He just got 4 snipers. You got a Jin and an Ash. He ends up
Yeah.
selling it.
All right. So he's
I
not going snipers. Doesn't want to play what the game gives him. Can't blame him.
Well, he
Doesn't.
has cybers on his bench,
Yeah.
so now he can play cybernetics. And I'm glad that Lev's not doing it because quite frankly, I think that Jin is a little bit too high roll dependent. I think that those
Yeah.
sniper builds with Timo, you need a lot of good items. You need a lot of gold and you need a lot of HP.
100%
And
agree. Yeah.
it's too inconsistent right now. It's a great comp, like if it can get online. It's just that it requires so many good things to happen.
Sure. If you somehow manage to just get like a blue buff and a Morello's on a Nicoverse where you find an early Timo, it's like, all right, you could probably place pretty high with that composition,
Right.
but it's still, with the items he has, he can't be guaranteed to really get all the items to make Jin really pop off. Whereas Cybernetics is just going to be way more consistent right now.
Yeah, not to mention that on Super Dense Galaxy in particular, that Force of Nature activates the Cybernetics tree, so it does give
Yeah,
Leona big stats. So
good
that's
point.
another reason why Cybernetics are very popular on Super Dense Galaxy. That being said, Lev gets crushed because everybody gets stronger at 3-1. Definitely one of the better changes, to a Galaxy, to
Right,
being able to have this Force of Nature come out at 3-1 as opposed to when you hit level 5.
right. It's just a much smoother implementation of the Galaxy to make it even like that. All right, so he's gonna get the sniper buff for himself by putting in the Ash. Can't gain Celestial from it, but at least he gets Vanguard as well.
Yeah, he had the sniper through the Caitlyn, but it's like a 1-star Caitlyn. Ash
Yeah,
at a 1-star still has the capability of having a battle deciding ultimate go off because she will freeze the farthest target. I also agree with the Jace going in over the Nautilus. While you
mm,
can get good CC, Jace's ability is sometimes just really valuable to finish off weakened units because Cybernetics does tend to spread their damage a lot since you tend to also position things pretty spread out.
right. I like it. Another little benefit, tiny little side benefit of being in the super dense galaxy is that he gets one extra item to put on his cybernetics units, and so we can just put that on Leona and get all the stat buffs for free.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, Aurelia. All right. It may not make his comp better right now, but he could just go 6 cybernetics right now, right? Because he's got, maybe I'm miscounting actually. He's got 3. No, no, he could. I don't think he do, but he could.
Yeah, this is the position where I think you just kind of you're stuck in a holding pattern for a bit. You'd
Yeah.
be really tempted to go for 6 cybernetics right here, right now. But the problem with going 6 cybers early
Well, no
is
items.
you don't
So
have the items to actually
yeah.
back it up. Because if you want to spread your components, like a sword on Vayne, a glove on Irelia, and then the rest kind of just get spread out, that's fine. But he's completed 2 of his items. So
Mhm.
he's got to wait for just a little bit longer. But in other galaxies, when you have those components and you haven't committed to any items, by all means, jam the 6 cybers at 1 stars.
On the other side, if you have enough 2 stars, you can rely on just getting the cybernetics buff on your carries too, because that'll make them so strong. And a lot of times in a normal galaxy late game, you may not have item spread as much, but with everything being 1 star right now and taking losses, it's a little bit too risky to make that big of a swap. Oh, completed items on the
Oh
carousel. All
my
right.
goodness. It's not just
Yikes.
a completed item, it's the good completed items. GA, Infinity Edge, blue buff, Morel Nomicon, red
Yep.
buff, best items. I mean,
Morellos.
it's interesting to see what he's going to go for. I think he really wanted to get the Infinity Edge, but he can't. Maybe he can justify the Morel Nomicon. He could also convince me that Bramble Vest would be really good, but it looks like he's going to
Mhm.
go for the Hand of Justice instead.
What do you think about the Hand of Justice on like an Aurelia?
Yeah, it's
That
totally
might
good.
be
Like I
it's an
really
item
can
that you can
use
use. Yeah,
I really can use every stat in the game really well.
right.
So
Well, we'll
it's
catch up with him later.
yeah.
Time to move over to
Oh,
Uni.
here we go.
Wow, he finds a Yasuo 3 already. So going for the Slash Bros, he's got 6 Blade Mastery, found the Blade Master spatula for Zed already.
Yeah, it's not just the Yasuo 3 too. Getting this early mastery is also really crucial because that's
Yep.
one of the big limiting factors. If I say Z2, oh my god, you need found everything pretty much except for this last Blade Master, which looks like he's gonna go ahead and slam that second ribbon in there.
Okay, puts the IE on the Yasuo 3. Why not? He's 3-star, might as well utilize that as he gets into the back line. And yeah,
Yeah.
having this online this early is going to probably give him a bit of a win streak. Agon has the mech
Yeah.
pretty early, but down to 50 HP.
Can you imagine not winning after that? Like you 3-star Yasuo, you 2-star Yi, you
Yeah,
found a 2-star Zed, and you found like an Infinity Edge opponent 3. If he didn't win that, I think this comp is like officially like D tier. There should be no
right.
way you should be playing this comp if that doesn't win
It
at
would definitely
three
affect
six.
your tier list, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such an early Yasuo 3 as well. I think part of it is that, maybe if you have just a Yasuo 3 and everything else is 1-star, you can take a couple losses here and there, but the big 3 for this comp, right? The Yasuo, the Master Yi, the Zed, all 2-star already. He's in good
Oh,
shape.
this is an interesting positioning thing. He
Oops.
forewent the rebel buff on the
Oh, man.
the Zed. The Zed can't even get to the backline anyways, and then he kind of set up like pylon powers through like the 1-star tier 4 units. I don't even know if it matters. He's got so much just brute force through the 3-star Yasuo with an Infinity Edge that it
Yeah, he
might
did
not
not need that
matter.
rebel
But
buff, I guess.
I guess that was more of like aesthetic positioning.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Style points. It threw off Gunmay, for a moment. It made him think. That's what you gotta do. You gotta throw them off their
yeah,
game mentally.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so now, a few rounds ago, Uni was struggling with HP. I was wondering if he could pull himself out, but with his roll down, premature roll down, mind you,
Mhm.
again, we don't really see people roll down that much when they're playing Bang Bros at level 6, but he chose to go for it and he was rewarded. And one of the more risky galaxies to do it on because Super Dense is so good at punishing your HP with the additional unit on the board.
Mm.
Uni looks like he's in a good position to move to the top 4 here.
Yeah. Update on Khroen and Gunmay as well, the two players battling for first place in the tournament. Gunmay is a little bit ahead of Khroen, but
What?
Khroen's still at fourth. And wow, he finds a couple swords and he finds another spatula, so he can make another Blade Master.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I mean, so one
Wow.
another unit I really like turning into Blade Master in this composition is Fizz.
Yes, I was about to say, yeah, Fizz seems
uh,
like the natural fit here, right?
yeah, you can put the Blade Master temporarily on Shaco. You could even justify keeping Shaco, but Fizz as a Blade Master is also like low key really nasty.
He casts so quickly that you get a lot of benefit from that big AoE crowd control ultimate. And
Yeah.
Shaco's a good placeholder, though, you know?
Yeah.
Sure.
I like this ritual summoning of the three Blade Masters. It's so funny to me, right? Like Mastery,
Yeah.
Yasuo, and Zen, a bunch of one-star units just kind of like being the bodyguard, so to speak.
It's like the three horsemen, basically.
Yeah,
One
exactly.
less than your typical amount of horsemen in mythology, but
Oh,
still.
is he doing? He's looking at all the Blade Masters in the game, and he's thinking, "Should I go for 9 Blade Masters for 100% chance to trigger?"
Do it. Do it, man. All you need to
Yeah,
find is you need to find the Zaya and the
yeah,
Fiora at this point.
yeah. That's the kiting is hard synergy. 100% chance to trigger.
Yep, we can call it that. I accept. You know what he really wants right now too is a chain vest for the Yasuo.
Yeah, yeah.
Getting a GA would be big.
Well, he also wants to QSS on the Master Yi, but the thing is, his eco, he's like kind of prioritized leveling here, so he has like the ability to play all those Blade Masters, but he
Mhm.
also kind of needs to beef up the front line because eventually, when other people get things online, especially like Jinx composition eats up the one-star Blade Masters for breakfast because
Right.
then the Jinx gets reset super quick, and unless Yasuo can jump directly onto the Jinx, she's just gonna destroy everything in their path.
Ooh, Khroen takes a big loss, and he cannot afford that in this lobby right now if he wants to have a chance of winning the tournament.
Yeah, yeah.
So close. Gunmay up in second. He took a loss as well, but still almost 20 HP ahead of Khroen right now.
It's to be expected though. Like everybody else hitting level 8
Yep.
across the board while you need that 0 gold. He does have the ability to pick up another 2-star Zed, but for now it looks like we're gonna see whether or not Unique can kids momentum as his front line did get bolstered by the Shen too.
Yep. Shen 2 is a nice pickup as well, just to get things a little bit more tankier. We're gonna go and take a look at how Khroen is doing from a first place perspective right now, probably after this round.
Yeah, Lev looks like he's pretty much online with 6 cybers. Does have just an infinity edge, so he might run into problems with armor-based compositions. This Vayne is actually doing really good damage while ranging out, and this should be a win for the cyber player. Oh no, he also got
Oh,
the last touch.
one more swipe. And I was about to say, like, this is
Huge.
where you really wish the GA was on the Yasuo, but you didn't need it.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely
close.
huge because you need is completely dependent on this win streak. If he loses his win streak and he's not at like 20, 30 gold, he is in dire straits. So that was a really crucial win.
Yeah. Another full item carousel. This time the like tier 2 items. So we've
Yeah.
got some crazy carousels happening this last game
Ooh.
too.
That Zeke's was really important. It's a great third item for Yasuo because you put him next to the Master Yi.
Yep.
Is it redemption so that you can take? Oh, I guess you're ready to pick the ZZ Rot portal, but
Yeah.
yeah, something just to kind of bolster his front line so it can stall a little bit longer.
All right. Well, we'll check back into the you need later. Let's take a look at what Khroen's up to right now. He is going for a little bit of Brawler Rebel Infiltrator right now. So um, I talked earlier in the show about how Brawler Infiltrator seems to be something people are experimenting with. Um, this Gangplank is probably going to be better in the long run, and you could just shift and head more towards a pure Rebels comp here. We'll see what Khroen has in mind.
Yeah, this looks like a pretty much a bridge to get to Rebels.
Yeah.
Has the Zed carrying all the Jinx items. Just needs to find Jinx. He leveled to 8, rolled down, didn't find Jinx. This looks like variance being on the wrong side here for Khroen. And
Unfortunately, yeah.
he looks really weak to me. I don't expect him to win this fight. and he's probably going to lose throughout stage 4 and hope that his 5-1 roll down will be much better.
Right.
Oh, wait.
Well, that rumble is pretty strong.
Oh, it's so
Yeah, that's
close.
another
He almost
hard
actually pulled that
loss.
back.
Yeah, he did, but each one of these losses, and he knows it, is putting him farther and farther away from the possibility of winning the tournament. He's the HP gap between him and Gunmay has closed a little bit, as Gunmay has been losing somewhat too,
Yeah. Well,
but
hold
still,
on about that because Khroen actually improved in the standings despite losing that, and
yeah,
you can
it
see
was a
that
close
4th
loss.
place. Yeah, and I think that if you are going to lose streak throughout stage 4, which is one of the probably the most risky stage that isn't, obviously the end game. Um, you do want to lose by as little as possible. So, all things considering, if he is able to do that again, Khroen can recover his economy and have like a pretty good commanding roll down here. So he actually wants to lose, but he wants to lose just barely by like 1 unit or 2 units. Uh-oh, that's a lot.
Oh, that's a pretty big one though. Yeah, that's a loss by 5 units, unfortunately. Down to 31 HP, knocked all the way down to 7th.
Mm,
Gunmay wins his round in the meantime. And it's looking grim for Khroen as far as getting first place in the tournament. He's still locked down at least second, which is an awesome result. But you
yeah.
play so well, especially in the finals lobby. You want to hit first.
Yeah, and it's pretty much just down to this jinx. There is like a consolation prize of finding Gangplank 2, but his
Yeah.
items for Gangplank aren't even like super good outside the GA. So, he's kind of like in a way baited to try to position Gangplank in a suboptimal position solely so he can get the Zeke's value, which is important, right? When you have 2 damage carries. Oh,
Oh,
that's actually pretty big getting a Nico's, that increases his chances significantly to hit the exact carry he needs. But here we go. Jinx right off the bat with a larger area buff. Oh boy. Okay.
all right. He's finding the upgrades. He's finding the champions he needs. Needs another rebel. There's a Vi too. There's the
Oh,
Aurelian
Jinx
Soul.
and a
Ooh,
Vi.
another Jinx. He can make a Jinx too right now. Yeah, sells
Yeah,
the
he
Zed.
can.
Some really fast transitioning needing to be done by Khroen right now as he makes the switch over to 6 rebels, but he does it successfully, finds a Jinx too.
Yeah, he's
Ladies
skipping
and gentlemen,
positioning
that is
down.
how you do it. Wow.
Yeah, and he can make a Deathblade as well.
Yeah.
Deathblade Runic is very good on Jinx.
Yeah, Last Whisper. See, so suddenly this board
Wow.
got a lot stronger. Oh, Nartho. Well, Jinx is online
Yeah, and
and he's
that's
gonna get the win.
important. Big damage and also pressure on Deisik as well. That's a lot of damage for Deisik to accept. And Deisik rolled down too. It's not like he's necessarily greeting to try to go to level 9 very quickly.
Right.
So the texture of this lobby is going to start to dramatically shift. Agon gets a win. Kiyoon drops down even further. Another Jinx to add insult to the injury, so to speak. But at the same time, he's in a good spot now. And I think that Khroen is starting to find his stride.
I think so. This is definitely a place that he can build from. And his HP, while low, is still fairly comfortable in that he doesn't need to be worried about dying in one, maybe even 2 losses right now.
Right. It's in contrast to a couple of lobbies that we've seen today where like one player was dominating the rest at like 80 HP while the rest are kind of hanging in there. It's a
Right.
fairly dense
Oh,
lobby, super dense lobby, if you will.
yeah. It's a super dense lobby. You can see him a little bit frustrated with the mouse movement. He didn't get the fizz next to the Zeke's in
Oh,
time. That is dangerous. That Riven,
oh
nearly
my
dead, but not enough.
God. That
That'd be,
fizz in the back line with the frozen heart not only slowed the Jinx down for forever, but also one shot her in the back.
yeah.
That was brutal.
That is potentially like a game-ending loss for Khroen right now because now where we were talking about his HP is not that bad. Now he's on to basically his last life unless it's an extremely tight loss.
Yeah, it's times like this where I contemplate whether or not it's worth keeping rebels bunched in a group of 6. I often think about, obviously there's some unique positions you can do to split Jinx, maybe only buffer 5 times instead of
Mhm.
6. But sometimes the split 3 and 3 offsets things like Gnar and Fizz, which are just super high impact abilities. Like
Yeah.
right now here, Fizz has a chance of doing some major damage at the back line, but so does his opponent's Gnar.
Right. GPL comes in. It's got the large area, so it hits a lot of
Oh,
people. Gets a
stun!
good stun. The stun was so massive, and he gets the win over Kiyoon. Staying alive, Kiyoon now in 8th place on the verge of being eliminated.
Yeah, Gunmay loses as well. Big movements into the standing. Some players moving down 2, 3 spots.
Well, this is such a tight
Carousel,
lobby too. Like, look at this
stage
lobby.
5.
The top player in the lobby
Oh my
is
god.
Deisik and Zerks tied at 34. It's
Ionic
so
Spark.
we're in for the I think the closest finish we've seen yet in lobbies
Yeah.
today.
So now Khroen comes down to whether or not he can get his Gangplank too.
Mm,
So many players also within that, 12 to 25 health range. That's the difference between fourth and last right now. Actually, even
right.
third.
And you want to talk about like the actual danger zone here, right now Khroen and Kiyoon under threat of
Yeah.
just straight up dying. Probably could put Lev in that category as well.
Yes.
Faster impact is so big, I think. I would
It's
pick it up.
hard. That faster impact is like the least useful upgrade for Gangplank, but sometimes it's like so big because you get that stun right moments before the
Yeah.
Fizz or the Gnar gets the ultimate. So it's like useful, but at the same time, he really wants to go to 9.
Yeah, but where
Eh.
you've got demo in there, I think the stun is worth it. I don't know. He's gonna swap back just to try to throw off his opponents a little bit. Doesn't pick up the faster impact though.
Okay, I would definitely like to slam this
Hmm.
belt though, for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Slam
You
it on
got
the
to put on somebody.
Fizz. Yeah, he might just save it for whoever's about to die and wants to keep him alive a little bit longer.
Jinx just got
No, the
insta-gibbed by the
Yasuo target the
Yasuo.
Jinx.
Yeah, Yasuo jumped right on
Oh,
the
this is
Jinx with no
bad.
defensive items. Khroen
He's
is out at
dead.
8th. Oh no. He secures 2nd place, but what this means is that Gunmay, no matter the result, is going to win Giant Slayer Series Season 2. So it's become a bit of a victory lap, but there's still room for other players to move around between 3rd and so on in the final standings.
Oh yeah. So now the first place has been settled. Congrats to Gunmay, but we still have a couple of other really interesting stories. Lev, if he gets eliminated, Agon, I believe, is guaranteed 3rd. But we will have to see one if Lev dies here, but also if whether or not there's another player that might be able to move up right behind him. I think might be within striking distance as well.
Unid right now is sitting at 17 points. So in theory, he could contest Agon depending on Agon's
Mhm.
finish.
Right,
Uh,
right.
Agon is just like blowing my mind today, and every time we watch him, which just is what looks like an incredibly risky playstyle that keeps paying off for him. On board with Gunmay right now, though, as
Jesus,
he
that
takes a big
Aurelia.
loss down
Oh
to
wow.
18 HP. Yeah, that Aurelia is terrifying.
Lev out in 7th, Kiyoon out in 6th. Just goes to show you how close these lobbies are. Every single round
Yep.
from this point on, you might see a devastating elimination here. Deisik still trying to fight against DarkHydra and preserve his HP so that he can eliminate DarkHydra potentially. DarkHydra goes down to 1.
So I suppose if you need wins and gets 10 points, goes up to 27. There's room for him to pass up Agon then, depending on Agon's finish, because he's gonna get at least 6. Well, it depends on at least 4. So if he takes 4th or 5th, and
Yeah.
Unid takes 1st, that can swap things up. Otherwise, there's not a lot of room for movement anymore at this point.
Yeah. And also we will have tiebreakers potentially at that spot too, but
Sure.
we'll wait to see the final results. In the meantime,
Right.
you're playing a sorcerer based composition. You see a jewel gauntlet. You can even just slap on the Shaco to immediately give him the double crit synergy, jewel gauntlet and the
Yep.
Infinity Edge, a classic combination.
Very true. Let's go and check out what Unid is up to right now. Number 1 in the lobby here, going for that 6th Blade Master build that we saw earlier, with the double Blade Master spatula, still sitting on the Shaco. It's tough to find the Fizz too sometimes because Fizz has become one of the most contested champions in TFT.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I
So
mean,
Shaco does okay.
Shaco does
Oh my
all
gosh.
right.
well,
You need
well,
still waiting on a Master E3, and it looks like he's going to take a big loss. DarkHydra
yeah.
staying alive with that Jace 3. Gunmay taking a big loss too. Oh, jeez.
Gunmay down to 2. Man, there's still 5 people left in the lobby as well.
Oh, wow.
3 sub 10 HP. And
Oh,
he finds the E3.
yeah. Although I will say that this Master Yi with the Ionic Spark and the Jewel Gauntlet,
Subpar items. Yeah.
not the best, not the best, but hey, I mean, if he's able to outplace Agon by 3 placings, that's still significant. Like if Agon loses, Unique wins. Agon
Mhm.
goes out in 4th, Unique gets out in 1st. He gets a commanding 3rd place in
Yeah.
this tournament. So it's still possible for some movements in the standings here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. All right. Playing against Agon. Agon going with the Riven build, of course. Yasuo getting some important early hits. That Master Yi, though,
Yeah, too much
swinging
damage.
away. Yeah, a little bit too much for Agon to
Oh,
handle. It's maybe. Oh no, we spoke too
wait.
soon. Riven,
No, he's
Riven
dead.
down to like near 0 HP, but Gunmay went out in 5th. So Gunmay went out slightly before Uni
Oh,
did. Agon, though,
great.
looking like he's going to be able to probably, I believe that secures him 3rd right now. I'm terrible with
It
math. We'll wait to
should.
see. But
It
Agon,
should.
Deisik, and DarkHydra. So DarkHydra having a rough finals lobby, but at least making a strong showing in the last game.
I don't know how this guy has the resolve to just kind of stare death in the face game after game, but he's doing it. Aegon looks like he's in a pretty good spot to close it out.
Yeah,
Um,
he's an
and
inspiration.
overall, like he's got this 3rd place spot locked up, and that's going to, end up to a really nice 3rd place podium finish here for Aegon. He's going up against
Yeah.
Deisik. He gets a really good Fizz ult and stuns the Jinx temporarily. Janna gets a follow-up ult, and now Echo's going to try to add some cleanup damage.
Oh, goodbye. Deisik out. Aegon is going to be the winner of the final game. Grabs, yeah, able to do it. Grabs 1st place in the very last one. It grabs 3rd place overall. But we got to hand it to Gunmay. Gunmay is actually going to be the winner. We're going to take a look at these standings in a moment. But Gunmay, remember the first was I think it was the first week in the tournament went
The very
really
first
poorly
week.
for him. Yeah,
Yeah.
made this big tweet about how he's very upset with himself, upset with his play, and came back so strong after that. Was hard on himself. I think a lot of us would say he was harder on himself than he needed to be after that day. But whatever it was, it lit a fire under this guy that has led all the way to him becoming the Giant Slayer Series Season 2 champion.
Very much so. And you love to see when a player has set their resolve to try and improve their tournament results and they're able to do it immediately in a game with
Yeah.
variance. That sounds like something out of an anime, right? Where it's like
Yeah.
you can't just will your way. You can't yell loudly enough and then you all of a sudden gain power. But apparently
Apparently
Gunmay
you
can.
can. Yeah.
Apparently Gunmay can. And this is Gunmay without playing Olaf in the game.
True enough. Yeah. I mean, I'm very happy for him because as we look at the final scores, Gunmay obviously number 1, Khroen and Agon 2nd and 3rd. So sure, a European player won the tournament, but 2nd and 3rd were North American players. So let's we've got that. Let us have that at least.
That's right.
Ignore Kiyoon all the way down at the bottom of 8th.
One thing we didn't talk about was how close Agon came to Khroen in his 3rd place as well. So a
Yeah.
really tight finish in that top spot. Came down to the wire, but Gunmay is the man of the moment as
That's
he will
right.
be our winner for season 2.
And we've got Gunmay with us right now. Congratulations, Gunmay. You're the Giant Slayer Series Season 2 champion. How's it feel? Got to ask the stereotypical question first.
Well, it feels good. I felt like I played really well. I actually feel like I played the best in the game. I fucking did the worst in game second. I felt like I did the most insane transition from sniper. I don't know what I was playing, sniper brawler. I don't know, and I went into like the Khroen mech that he played a lot last week. I basically swapped out my whole board. Basically, using the new system in place where you get back almost all your gold.
Yeah.
I felt like I did a really good transition. I got 5th that game, and I'm like, okay, well, but yeah, it feels good. It feels good for sure.
So if we go all the way back to week 1, like you had a rough week, you were very vocal on social media about feeling pretty bad about that. So what was the change you made after week 1 to be able to come back and win it all?
I mean, the biggest one was just dropping any ego at all, looking at anyone climbing, looking up to the people and asking people I respect a lot about advice. Basically just taking in any and all information to like improve. Also I don't want to say philosophy, that's not the right word, but like my idea of how I play tournaments changed as well, because in the beginning I was playing 1st or 8th, which I feel like in a tournament setting is not the way, you know. It's
Probably
not as consistent always. So yeah, sometimes you just have to take the top 4 and be happy. There can be those kind of games. So that's probably the biggest changes I've done.
Cool. All right. Frodan?
Yeah,
You wanna
so
ask?
any comments on Europe versus North America? I know that was kind of a storyline that we talked about a lot going into the season.
Well, I mean, I'm not very, what's the word, patriotic of me. Like, I don't really see the whole NA versus EU. Like, I don't think that EU is better because of one or anything. Actually, if anything, I have a lot of like credit to give to NA players in general, because I've like most of my time I've been playing on NA. So like I've learned from both servers. So in terms of like EU versus NA, I feel like both servers have some really great top players, and it's gonna be fun to see maybe a rematch in the future.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, I'm sure there will be. So we've got a couple weeks now of 3.5 done. What's your overall just sort of take on the meta right now in TFT? Like, how do you feel the game stands? What do you think is strong? What do you like?
Well, there's a lot of things that's strong actually, which is really fun to see. Because before it was the one cost meta, which basically like took out most of the skill a lot in the early game and mid game, because you basically had the same board the whole way. You never did anything. So I think the fact that almost like any comp can win right now is really, really great. I feel like some comps are really, really strong, like Rebels. I feel like Sorks. I also feel like the 6BM comp is really good as well, but it's very hard to like get to the point where it basically kills everything. But I think that comp caps out the hardest of everything. There's just a lot of different good comps. I really like the mech right now as well, because now that you don't reroll for it, you actually can play around like a lot of different stuff with it, because you can go to level 8, you can go to level 9, fit in all these small synergies, like you can fit in 2 infiltrator, 2 demo, 2, just keep adding on small synergies. And I really like that. I think mech is very much like the some sins from set 2 in this set. It's very flexible.
It's a very popular buzz phrase for players who are fans of set 2, because some sins is worshipped by many as the holy grail of what TFT should be.
It was a fun style of play for sure. Yeah. So Gunmay, when you were in my show a few weeks ago, you said that one thing you really wanted to be known for was being a player that could play a lot of different comps and not like a one trick or anything like that. I would personally say that you fulfilled that goal. You played a lot of different stuff in this tournament. You look like you had a very, very deep knowledge, obviously, of the meta and a lot of different ways to play. But I want you to evaluate yourself. How are you doing on that goal right?
I mean, not gonna lie, today I ran it down on ladder so hard. I was kind of depressed before we started. I didn't come in with a lot of confidence. So like right now, I'm kind of like I feel like I played the best I've played in weeks right now today in these 5 games. So I feel like my understanding of the game is really good. I feel like my understanding of the early game is not very good, which is something I have to work on. Like the early game aggression is something you have to either match or be very, very good at late game transitioning. I decided today to like just play very aggressively if I had the option, which I did 3 games. And basically just play for board strength and HP, and build what I could, like play what I hit. So like I feel like I'm doing really good in terms of like being flexible right now. At least that's a good point right now for me.
All right, I've got one more question for you, unless Frodan, do you have any other ones?
No, let's go ahead, fire it off, DoA.
All right, so my last question for you, Gunmay, is about another player actually. We see Agon at 3rd place in the standings overall. With a
did he get 3rd?
He got 3rd.
What a monster, actually. Yeah, what a monster! What a monster!
Yes.
Holy
and a very
crap!
Style than everybody else.
Yeah.
You talked about playing the early game. It almost seems like Agon just doesn't worry about it.
He does the complete opposite, which is basically just giving up completely on fighting the early players who are like leveling really aggressively and stuff, and just playing for the late game transition, rolling down on 7, hitting everything, going to level 8, stuff like that. And He's known for that in set 2 as well. I didn't play against him in set 1, so I don't know if he had the style as well. But like in set 2, he's very much known for playing like Shadows, which was a comp which you basically open forward the whole way to 3-2, and you roll down and hit your board, and you go from there. So if anyone's gonna play that style, it's probably Agon. But I'm not gonna lie, he probably has the biggest balls in all of TFT. Like I wouldn't play like that right now. Like he's insane. Like every time I looked at this board, it became weaker every game. It's like he's really pushing it, and he keeps doing well with it though. So like him coming back and getting third is like insane. He's a nuts player. Like he's really, really good.
Yeah.
All right. Any final shout outs before we end this thing?
No shout outs. I'm always so awkward with this, but like there's a lot of people in the TFT community that I've gotten to know, and like that helped me a lot, especially like you said earlier, after the first week of disappointing performance. So like there's people like GV8, Mismatch Socks, Fluffy, Sunny and stuff. Like all of those guys have been a great help to me in one way or another, and like I want to say thanks to those people.
All
I guess
right.
that's it.
Great people.
Awesome. Well, congratulations again, Gunmay, Giant Slayer Series Season 2 champion. Thanks for stopping by for the insight and the post-game interview, and we're looking forward to seeing you in future tournaments.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully, I'll be back with another first.
I would not be surprised. See you later, man.
Yeah, see you.
All right, so there you go. So, Frodan, Giant Slayer Series Season 2 is done. What a crazy season. I know, another one of the books, our second season, and it just keeps getting more fun, honestly. But it was crazy. We had the mid-set patch coming in during the middle of it. I always ask you what your big takeaways on the day are. I'm going to ask you, what are your big takeaways on the tournament now that it's over?
Yeah, well, I think that Europe has properly showed how good they are. Keep in mind that ping does matter a little bit, especially when you start getting into like micro situations where people have specific items that they want to snipe or positioning stuff, and yet Europe still showed up really, in full force. 5 out of the top 8 players. And so while, top 3 wasn't Europe dominated, they still did really well into the final. So I think that's definitely a good takeaway. The second thing is, man, TFT players are just so nice. It's like such a good community where like everyone kind of supports each other. Like there's some light banter, obviously. It seems like, the better friends you are, the more you trash on each other. But like they're just generally very respectful. So, I really appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to more events, especially under Giant Slayer.
Yeah, same here. We have to do one big final heartfelt shout out to juke.gg for sponsoring the tournament. Again, I guess now you can do !GSS in chat to find all the Twitch channels of all the great players in the lobby today. Go back and watch the VODs from this if you want to see their point of view, and just go follow them so you can watch them play the ladder when they stream later. And also just juke.gg is a good place to go to find a bunch of different esports. I've discovered new things that I like to watch there that I never would have thought I would have watched otherwise. So it's a cool site in general. And a big thanks to them for supporting Teamfight Tactics Esports, because like Frodan mentions, this scene is special. The players are also nice. The game is so deep. It's so much fun. It's so chill. And so it really has been a joy to cast it. I've had a ton of fun. It's been another great season, Frodan. Any final words before we close it out?
No, just overall been really fun. This Wednesday is another episode of Teamfight Talk Show featuring Polt. I was going to stop on by. I might be traveling during that time. We're going to have to hope to figure it out. If so, we might actually air it at a different time than usual. Either way, we'll let you know. Just make sure to follow both this channel, twitch.tv/GiantSlayerTV, as well as Giant Slayer TFT on Twitter.
Yep, that's right. Fight nights on Thursday as well, if you want more Giant Slayer Teamfight Tactics action as well. It's a great place to see up-and-coming players in the scene. And second place in the tournament, Khroen casts that pretty often too. So you got a lot of really great insight from one of the best players in the game. So
when are you going to compete in Fight Night, DoA? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. I want to get back to Masters again, and then I'll compete. So we'll see. This week, I want to hit Masters again this week if I can, and then I'll get in there, and embarrass myself. But at least I'll always have casting. Anyway, thanks to Giant Slayer. Thanks to Giant Slayer for putting on this tournament. And again, like supporting TFT Esports, it's been totally awesome. Thanks once more to juke.gg for sponsoring. Frodan, it's been a ton of fun casting another tournament with you. I'm sure there's going to be a lot to come, and we'll see you then. Thanks for watching.